B'Shem HaShem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here, starting a new week, Baruch Hashem. Continuing with our series of Jewish HaShkafa, which now more than ever, people need as much direction as possible of what to do with the craziness that's happening in the world. A person can't help it, but the news is coming from all directions of the different things that are happening, whether it be the coronavirus, the election issues that are happening in America, in Israel, the different problems everywhere. Baruch Hashem, we have the Torah to direct us. So, BeEzrat Hashem, tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, David ben Esriya, Doris bat Jora, Orit bat Ilana, Michal bat Yael, Talia bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, Stefan ben Katarina, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Shaul ben Farzane, Yitro ben Avraham, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esriya, Marsha bat Julie, and her dear daughter Ayla bat Marsha, and also Alexander and Cephas ben Marsha, and also Atzlacha Rabba to Tzvi Moshe ben Leah for Atzlacha Rabba, and to all of Am Yisrael. Atzlacha Rabba, especially the ones that are helping us do all the wonderful things that Baruch Hashem we're trying to do to get Am Yisrael closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, since it is the time of Shovavim, we'll also give a few new insights, a few new things, or perhaps reminders in regards to the issues of Tikkun HaBrit. As we've mentioned over the last week, the sages have taught us that during the time, the six week time frame of when we read the book of Exodus, it's called the time of Shovavim, which is a auspicious time to do teshuvah specifically for Tikkun HaBrit. This also is very good to remind all the naysayers you may have, whether it be in your community, or in your classroom, or otherwise, that tell you that Tikkun HaBrit, the issues of wasting seed is not relevant to this generation, like some heretics like to say, because they themselves are sinners. This is a very good reminder for them that if it wasn't relevant to this generation, then how come the sages made sure to enact a specific time frame every single year until Mashiach comes for us to do teshuvah for it? Now, of course, you need to do teshuvah for it throughout the entire year, but the sages who knew a lot more about what happens in Shamayim than we do, knew that this is an auspicious time to do teshuvah for it. The gates of heaven, if you will, are open wider at this time for anyone that needs assistance from heaven to do Tikkun HaBrit, because one of the scariest things that I've ever learned is that came from the Zohar was that the Zohar Kadosh says in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that someone that does all types of sins, Hashem will help him do teshuvah. If a person wants to do teshuvah, wants to stop violating Shabbat, wants to stop eating non-kosher, wants to stop doing all types of sins, Hashem will help him. But when it comes to the issues of immorality, when it comes to the issues of wasting seed, promiscuity, and the likes, the Zohar Kadosh says there's no tikkun for this, meaning there's no teshuvah for this, meaning we're left alone, we can't fix ourselves? No. What does it mean? It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu detests, hates this sin of wasting seed, promiscuity, and the likes so much that when someone is sinning this type of sin, Hashem says to do teshuvah, you're on your own. Meaning, you can do teshuvah, but you have to start by yourself. You have to do it by yourself. Why? It requires serious willpower. It requires serious willpower to overcome this desire, first and foremost. Now you would say, well, this is even more of a reason why I need Hashem's help. This is even more of a reason why I need Hashem to help me. The problem is that if Hashem helped us in this particular sin like He does with other things, it wouldn't really be righteous the same way as others, simply because It's a measure for measure. When a person is wasting seed, as many Sfarim, the Zohar, the Gemara, the Chachamim, Kav Yashar, and many others talk about how a person that wastes seed is creating demons. In essence, he's taking souls that were supposed to come to this world, souls that were actually supposed to correct themselves in this world, and he, in essence, makes them hostages of the Satan. So it's to just allow him to relieve himself or free himself from being a prisoner of the Satan, while he created so many other prisoners, is not necessarily such an easy feat, if you will, for Hashem to allow. So it means that a person needs to try a lot harder to overcome this desire. And many times people get confused of what's supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. And again, this is a time to learn about the topic. This is a time to fix ourselves when it comes to this particular issue. I understand that there are some people that go to the synagogues and do specific prayers. They read Tehillim all day. In some cases, they fast once, twice, 3 times a week in order to do this tikkun. Most people can't really fast for a very long time. A day is already a lot for most people, and if they do it once or twice in 1 week, they're already beat and have a hard time doing it the following week. We're just a much weaker generation, and that's why the sages made sure to have a back door open for us to fix ourselves, to rectify this horrific crime against Hashem, of wasting seed, of immorality, of promiscuity, because this, in essence, is what distinguishes us from the animals. Because the Gemara says, in reality, there's nothing different between us and animals. Surely you can say, yeah, but I speak and the animal doesn't speak. Well, it does speak, just not your language. Well, I eat a specific kind of diet. Well, so does the animal. Well, I get married. Well, so does the animal. Perhaps maybe more than one animal sometimes, and some animals actually only marry one. Point being is, you cannot say that this is what distinguishes you from an animal. Can't say that's what distinguishes you from an animal. Why? Because in reality it doesn't. It doesn't distinguish you from the animal. What distinguishes us from the animals, Rabotai, is how we treat our Kedusha. How we treat our Kedusha, how we treat our holiness, in essence, when it comes to whether we are like horses, where we don't ask for permission whether the other side wants to be with us or not, or whether we're just doing the act just for the sake of pleasure only and really no other reason, or whether we follow the clear instructions from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that detail to us that, yes, although it is pleasant, and for most people, the most important part is not just the pleasure aspect of it. There are other meanings to it. So when a person treats themselves differently than an animal, they will allow themselves to learn that and implement that into their life. But unfortunately today we live in such a world where everyone has gone to the point where they forgot that they're supposed to be different from the animal, and the reason is because we live in a generation, we live in a world that is called Alma de Shikra, the world of lies, where people simply just want to get a fix for whatever they want, whether it be intimacy or it be food or it be drugs or whatever, a certain feeling. People just act that way based on instinct, becoming more and more animalistic. Hence the reason why you have such an immoral world. But the trickiest part is that this immoral world pretends to be much more moral than the world before us, meaning than the previous generations. No other generation has claimed to be as moral as this one. No other generation has claimed, the title to having political correctness for the sake of humanity as much as this one. But yet we actually live in a generation that's more immoral than anyone before us. I can't really necessarily gauge the exact crimes of Sodom and Gomorrah or the generation of the flood versus the one that we have today, but I could surely tell you for sure that whatever we're doing here, they did over there. Whatever they did over there, we're doing here. I'm just not really sure about the quantity. Not really sure about the quantity. But in reality, the world that we have today is not very different than the generations that Hashem destroyed. Despite the fact that they claim to be moral, which actually is a very common tactic of immoral people, which is one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. Can there be morals? Can you be a moral person without following the Torah? Because many politically correct people, especially in the world of modern orthodoxy and the likes, like to think that you don't necessarily have to be a Jew to be a moral person, which is true. You don't have to be a Jew to be a moral person, but you do have to follow the Torah. But they don't think so either. They think that since you don't have to be a Jew, you don't necessarily have to be a follower of the Torah to be a moral person. And perhaps it's one of the things we're going to look at tonight, if it is indeed possible. Now, of course, there are certain things that there are certain people that are moral and better than others in certain aspects. But we're talking about from Aleph at Taf, from A to Z. Surely you're always going to find somebody that's exceptional in one thing. Well, a person that doesn't follow the Torah perhaps, but he's extremely generous. Or he just has a smile on his face all the time and looks happy. Or, different things. Surely you'll find exceptional cases. You'll find the people that, are exceptional in certain aspects. But in reality, you'll see that without Torah, it's virtually impossible to be moral all around, from Aleph at Tav, from A to Z. And the reason why is because morals are things that are decreed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's the one that decides what is right and what is wrong, and his decisions don't change. Unlike mankind, so which means that what you think is right, perhaps may be agreed upon many others like you, but is disagreed by Hashem. Now, who do you think is right? You or Hashem? And that's the thing. Hitler thought he was right. Hitler thought he was 100% right to kill as many Jews as he could get his hands on. He thought he's 100% right. The people like him, the people that followed him, the people that preceded him, also thought they were right for the same type of behavior of blood libels against the Jewish people and others, all types of massacres, all types of discriminations, all types of racism and so on. People that are, sick in their mind and they think that women are simply objects and they just decide to do what they wish with them whenever they want to, even if they don't know them. They think that they're right. Why? Because they feel like they have a certain desire and the woman is just there to fulfill it. Obviously, the woman disagrees, and most normal women would disagree. But nonetheless, the criminal, thinks he's right. And this again, all criminals, all psychopaths, all people that are sociopaths have an argument, and they're not all necessarily that extreme, but nonetheless, we understand better at times when we see it in an extreme example. The point being, Rabotai, is that our Torah tells us that there is no way that you could be a moral person without it, simply because you're not going to be able to control your desires without following the Torah. You're not going to be able to control your desires without following the Torah, or at least whenever you do control them, you're not going to control them for the right reason, which means that you're going to lose control at exactly the wrong time. Now, one of those things during this auspicious time of Tikkun HaBrit is the issue of morality when it comes to intimacy. People have a wrong understanding of what relationships are there for. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is that people could literally lose their eternity and be similar to like the Walking Dead throughout their life, even if they are keeping Shabbat and they're learning and they're doing all types of other mitzvot, but in essence, they're living on borrowed time. They're living in such a fantasy life where they are sure that they're going to heaven, but in reality, they've already decreed themselves that there is no heaven in their account unless they do teshuvah for the lack of morality when it comes to their kedusha, their holiness, and when it comes to intimacy and so on, whether with themselves or otherwise. Now, the sages talked about this extensively and gave some very serious and critical teachings that a person that does not know them is simply not going to have the right tools to overcome this problem, overcome this addiction. I'm learning more and more as we teach more about this particular topic already for the last 6 or 7 years. I don't believe anybody else has covered this topic as extensively and as frequently as we have in the English language. And I have, Baruch Hashem, different people, men and women from around the world that are listening to this teaching specifically about Tikkun HaBrit, about immorality, about promiscuity, about homosexuality, and how to overcome that disgusting desire. And it isn't a desire, it's not anything other than that. If anything, you could call it perhaps a mental illness, but again, that illness comes from a desire that just loses control. This issue we've talked about extensively over the years, and Baruch Hashem, we've succeeded in helping quite a few people overcome these desires, including the hardest ones that are, like I said, homosexuality, promiscuity, both for men and women, and so on and so forth. But this has to be taught in a certain way, as the sages taught us, which is you have to scare people to death. There's a reason why the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, who did not write the Shulchan Aruch as a MUSSAR book to scare people. He simply told you this is the law. This is the law. You follow, you go to heaven. You don't follow, you go to Gehenna. Simply. It's not like there's no sugarcoating when it comes to the Shulchan Aruch. And Rabbi Yosef Karo wrote in the Shulchan Aruch, wasting seed is the worst crime in the Torah. Now, of course, all of us know that the same is said about violating Shabbat, the same is said about bitul Torah, the same is said about chilul Hashem and other karet sins, meaning that they can't all be the worst in the Torah, can they? Well, yes, they can. It's just that in essence, when a person violates this specific issue on a regular basis without doing teshuvah for it, in essence, what Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Rambam, the Zohar, the Gemara, and all of the sages that have made this type of statement are saying is that even if you keep everything else, but you didn't do teshuvah for this crime, it all goes to waste. You're going to get all of your reward in this world, but the next world is not going to look pretty. For how long? Forever. That's how bad it is. Rabbi Yosef Karo said that wasting seed is the worst crime in the Torah. The Rambam agreed. The Zohar agreed. In fact, many of the Chachamim said things that are much more extensive than that. Hence the reason of why the sages took extraordinary measures to teach us some of the details of the punishment, why they took extensive measures to teach us of how careful some of them were. As we read in the Gemara, there are countless stories about reward and punishment and so on. And actually in this week's parasha, Parashat Vayera, says, Vayedaber Elohim el Moshe vayomer elav ani Adonai. God spoke to Moshe and said to him, I am Hashem. Now, of course, a person that's reading the Torah for the first time in his life, or perhaps the first time he's reading it with commentary, he's like, why is Hashem telling Moshe that he's God? Like, I would assume that when God's talking to you, you're pretty much sure who's talking to you. You don't think it's your friend Steve. You don't think it's your wife talking to you, perhaps with a different voice that's perhaps coming from heaven. You know, obviously you realize it's God. What is the point here? Why is he reminding Moshe Rabbeinu that he's God? Rashi HaKadosh, Rashi, that you cannot survive a single verse in the Torah without him, specifies what is God's message here? To tell Moshe, in essence, tell us, why is he telling us he's God? The Gemara in Masechet Megillah says 55 prophets are mentioned in the Tanakh. From Bereshit all the way to the end of the prophets, there are 55 prophets named by names. 48 males, 7 females. Gemara asks, how many prophets were there in history? Over 1.2 million. So how come only 55 prophets are mentioned out of 1.2 million? Simple. The ones that are mentioned, their message, whatever verse it is, whether it's the first verse in the Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, Hashem created the heaven and the earth, or it's the verses that talk about the descendants of Cain, or it's the verses that talk about what happened with Ishmael and Esav, or it's the verses that talk about the different korbanot, or it's the verses that talk about what Am Yisrael did after they heard some bad news about what Israel looks like with all the giants that were there, and so on and so forth. Any verse you pick in the Torah, any verse that you pick in the Tanakh, whether it's a psalm, a long one, a short one, a psalm that was written by David Amalek, a psalm that was written by Asaph, a psalm that was written by Moshe Rabbeinu, Adam HaRishon, or it's Proverbs, or it's Ecclesiastes, or it's the prophet Isaiah, or it's Ezekiel, any verse you have in the Torah, anything that's mentioned from the beginning of the Tanakh all the way to the end, the Gemara says that's mentioned by the 55 prophets that are named by name. That means that that prophecy is relevant to every single person in every single generation until Mashiach arrives, for eternity, forever, beyond Mashiach. Why? That's what Hashem put in the Torah. All the other prophets, they were important. Some of them were extremely righteous even. How come they're not mentioned? Because their prophecy was only relevant for a specific amount of time. Whatever is mentioned in the Torah is relevant forever. So what prophecy is Moshe Rabbeinu telling us here? We have in the 5 books of Moses, we're in Sefer Shmot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm God. What's the prophecy here? Rashi says, the prophecy here is, remember, dear Jew, remember, dear human being, I am God, and therefore, never underestimate my patience. I will wait, and I will wait, and I will wait, and eventually I will punish. That's what Rashi says. That's what Rashi says. Moshe, you're concerned about why is Paro look like he's winning? He's torturing our people. Why are all these wicked people allowed to torture our people? Don't worry, Moshe. I'm God. I have patience. I give people an opportunity to do teshuvah. When I see that they're not in line to do teshuvah, I let them continue sinning to build up the account so I can punish them even worse, Hashem Yishmo. That's what I am Hashem means. Look it up yourself. Look at what Rashi says. Look at what the sages say. Now this, you're going to say, wait, well, this sounds like God a gangster? Chas v'shalom. God has a system in place. Reward and punishment. You follow his system, you follow his Torah, you will get rewarded beyond any of your imagination. The smallest mitzvah, the smallest good deed will give you reward that's more than all of the good that all of the people that ever existed, ever had in their entire lives combined. On the other hand, the punishment is so severe that a person that's not scared of God is simply like a drunk person. Why? Because the punishment is just as severe. It's just as severe. This is why, Rabotai, there are stories like this in the Gemara. In the Gemara Masechet Kiddushin, page 81a, we have a story about one of the tzaddikim, Rav Amram the tzaddik of Nardia. Rav Amram the tzaddik had a big house, and there was a group of young Jewish girls that were captured by Goyim. And Baruch Hashem, the Jewish people freed them, and they said, okay, but what are we going to do with all of these girls? What are we going to do with all these young girls? Where are we going to protect them from them being captured again? We're going to protect them for, what are we going to do with them? Go put them at Rav Amram, the tzaddik's house. He has a house, a big house, you put him there. That's it. Yeah, but he lives there. No, don't worry, it's a big house, and it has several stories. And what you can do is you put them on the top floor, and then you can remove the stairs. So, all of the people go, they let all the girls go up to the top floor. Okay, you're going to be over there, don't worry, no one's going to harm you. You can have a good night's sleep, and in the morning, when it's time to go, you're able to go, no problem. So they go, and now they have to remove the staircase. It requires 10 people. 10 people to remove the staircase. Huge, enormous, and heavy staircase. Or ladder, if you will. Now, time goes, and as the hours go, Rav Amram continues to learn his Torah. He's an old man. No one is suspecting him of any crime. He's the Gdol Ador, he's Kodesh Kodeshim. But as you would have it, the Satan shows up. The Satan shows up, and at the right moment, or if you should say the wrong moment, as he's looking, there's a reflection. The sun reflects against something metallic, or a mirror of some kind, which grabs his attention, and he sees a reflection, and in that reflection he sees that there is a girl upstairs. He knew there was girls there, but at that moment a Satan shows up and he's overwhelmed by a desire like no other. And you'd say, okay, fine, well, he's a tzaddik. In tzaddik shelo yichta, there's no righteous person doesn't sin, but they put protective measures. Rav Amram himself put protective measures to make sure, first of all, he's old. How's he going to climb all those stairs? Second of all, there's no stairs. They moved them. Why? They moved them by 10 people had to move them. The Satan wants to get something done, he gets it done. Rav Amram gets this desire, and he takes the ladder, he takes the stairs by himself, the Gemara says, by himself, and moves it by himself. What 10 people were having a hard time doing, he's able to do with ease by himself. And he starts climbing the stairs. As he climbs the stairs, suddenly the Torah comes and reminds him who he is, what he's doing. As we know, the Torah protects us from sins. HaShem Yishmor v'Yatzil. He had so much Torah, the Torah shows up at the right time and tells him, Rav Amram, what are you doing? And Rav Amram knew that this is a mamash mercy from heaven. A mercy from heaven, what am I going to do? Okay, so I have the Torah that's reminding me that it's wrong, but I also have this desire I haven't had in 50 years. What do I do? At that moment, he doesn't waste a single moment. And he starts screaming, fire, fire, fire. Everyone wakes up. Everyone realizes what's going on. Everybody comes out. The Avrechim from next door come out. Everybody comes out. The girls come out. Everybody comes out. Only to see that Rav Amram is literally steps away from arriving where the girls are. The floor where the girls are. Meaning you can't hide it. And he still screams, fire, fire, and everyone is as embarrassed as can be. And now that he sees that everyone is there, he comes down, embarrassed as can be, and they say to him, Rebbe, what are you doing? You just embarrassed us. Amram tzaddik says to them, it's better that I embarrass you in this world. Then I go up to heaven and they show me what's going to happen to me had I continued taking another step. Why would such a tzaddik allow himself to get embarrassed? Because it's better that you get embarrassed, which getting really truly embarrassed is literally like a feeling of being burned. Being burned. It's better that I get burned here in this world than get burned up there in Shamayim. This, Rabotai, is a constant reminder that each and every single one of us, male or female, young or old, married or single, has to know. A person that does not treat themselves like they have a relationship with Hashem, where they have to treat their intimacy in a certain fashion, they have to treat their marriage in a certain fashion, they have to treat every single move they have in a certain fashion, in accordance with the Torah, such a person cannot have a solid relationship with Hashem, no matter what they say, no matter how much they pray, no matter how many speaks what they do. Why? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu specifically says this issue of morality is the covenant. That's the deal. You keep the deal, you observe the deal, we continue. You don't observe the deal, there's not going to be a good end. And that's why the Gemara specifies different extraordinary men that almost fell for this crime. So don't feel so sad about the fact that you fell for it once or twice or more, because even the greatest men almost fell for it. So what protected all of them? What was the point of mentioning their embarrassment in our holy Gemara? to show us that, number one, every single person is susceptible to this crime. En apotropos la'arayot. No one is over this crime. Every single human being that ever existed is susceptible to this sin. Meaning that if you don't make sure to not fail this particular crime, you don't work on it, for sure you're going to fail. Even if it's with your own wife, your husband, whoever it is. If you're not working on fixing it, for sure you're breaking it. That's just the way it is. Secondly, that no matter who you are, you can still do teshuvah. No matter how many times you've made the sin, you can still do teshuvah as long as you're alive. As long as you're alive. There are many stories in the Gemara of different people that were Reshaim at certain points and did teshuvah. But it required a lot of sacrifice. It required a lot of effort. A lot of effort. Now the sages instituted this particular time as an auspicious time to do teshuvah because the gates of heaven are open wider, if you will, to help a person do teshuvah for this, whereas the rest of the year you can do it, but you're on your own. So as I mentioned in previous shurim, the way to do teshuvah for it briefly is, number one, you have to stop. Number two, you have to get educated. One of the ways to get educated for it in the English language is to simply watch all of our lectures pertaining to this topic. There's somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 something lectures pertaining to this topic that we've made. Some are long, some are short, but every single one of them is different from the other. That can teach you a lot of different things. Watch every single one of them, add them to your study schedule. Again, male, female, married, single, old, young, doesn't really make a difference. The lectures are pertaining to everyone. Everyone that simply functions, it's pertaining to you. So that's another thing. Third thing is, make sure that you pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have mercy on you. There's different parts of the prayer that you could have, a personal prayer in Amidah. Pray for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have mercy on you and to give you the strength to overcome this, to overcome the desires, to only do it in a permitted way. Another thing is the time to do tikkunim. That's why many of the Kabbalists and different people that follow the Kabbalistic world, they do fast during this time of the year. Some people fast once a week, some people fast twice a week, some people fast more, some people fast less, some people don't fast at all. And people ask me all the time, should I fast? And the answer is always the same. If you fasting will allow you to learn even more Torah, or at the very least as much Torah as you learn normally, then yes, go ahead. But if fasting is going to hurt your Torah even by 1%, it's better not to fast. Why? Because learning Torah is much more valuable than fasting. Much more valuable than fasting. People would come to Rabbi Yaron and ask him, what about fasting? He said, go learn Torah. What about going to the graves? Go learn Torah. What about doing this? What about doing that? All of those things are good, but learning Torah is number one. So you have to learn Torah. And one of the things you have to learn is about this specific issue. We have 2 books that you can download in English. You can download on our website for free. There are some other books that are a little bit hard to get, that you can get on different websites. But realistically speaking, the most amount of information you're going to get about this topic in English is from our lectures. Simple. It's not really complimenting ourselves or patting ourselves on the back. It's just a reality. In English, it's almost a unheard of subject, especially how it was for the last 5 or 6 years, 7 years. A lot of the material that came to place in English has only been in the last couple of years for people. But generally speaking, there's a lot of information in Hebrew, but very, very little bit in English. Furthermore, in regards to this issue, people that do fast, good for them, but since the sages knew there's going to come a time that we're going to live in a weak generation, people that cannot fast, and even if the ones that can fast, every single time somebody was with a nidah, a woman that's having a period, or a woman that is not his wife, therefore she didn't go to the mikveh, or if she was somebody else's wife, HaShem Yishmor, so on and so forth, all types of immorality crimes, or he was doing something by himself, or she was. All of these things require 80 plus fasts per crime. So the reality is, the average person today, 20, 25 years old, simply has to fast to eternity. So since that's not going to really work out, and you staying alive at the same time, the sages instituted something relatively simple. You do the fasts with money. And I've mentioned this time and time again. I mention it again simply because sometimes people watch the shiur, this one, and they don't watch the other one, so they keep asking me privately. So since this is the time we talk about this issue anyway, might as well mention it. We fast with money. How do we fast with money? You take the average value of how much it costs you to eat per day. Let's say, obviously not your normal food. I mean, if you're a rich person, your average day costs you $300 of food. Obviously, you have to, make everything aligned to that relevant to that. But if you're an average person, you could probably eat for $5 a day. $5 every wasting seed is 84 fasts. 5 times 84 is $420. For each and every single time a person wasted seed, they have to donate $420. Now, specifically, they should donate for this specific issue, not only in mind, but also in the cause itself. It should be an institution, whether it be our organization, BeEzrat HaShem, or anybody else that that's dealing with this issue, should be someone that's specific to this issue. Someone that's teaching it, someone that's learning it, and so on and so forth. Why? Because it has to be relevant to you. And it can't be just like donating it to just the local Chabad house or to a new chandelier for the synagogue. That's not going to really work. So the point is that any woman that was ever promiscuous, any guy that was ever promiscuous, again, themselves or otherwise, doesn't really make much of a difference. They have to do this tikkun at some point or another if they want to arrive in heaven clean. Now, you don't have to do the tikkun in essence in order to arrive in heaven, because there is a Gemara in Masechet Yoma that says that if a person does teshuvah for everything, and you stop the crime, and you don't do this anymore, technically you're going to go to heaven. What about all of the sins that you've made? All of the sins that a person made intentionally turn into accidental. Now, surely there's still a punishment for those accidental sins. So if you don't mind paying a little bit of, punishment for the accidental sins, then you don't have to do the tikkunim. You keep your money, invest, put it in a stock market, maybe buy a few stocks, have $500 million by the time you die that you can't really use, and no problem, you don't have to do it. But if you want to be clear of any crime whatsoever when you arrive to Shamayim, then I would recommend you do the best that you can. Again, this is for you more than it is for anybody else. One of the main things that I see sometimes people do is that they try to do the fast, which is admirable. It's very admirable for a person to try to do the fast, but then they fail doing the fast and they figure like might as well give up on everything. This is a silly thing. Again, you can fast once, you can fast twice, whatever you want to fast, but you have to also be realistic with where you stand. To go fast 800 times or 8,000 times, however many fasts it is, it's not realistic for anybody in this generation. It's just not. There are some people that can fast several days in a row, which is considered as if you fasted many, many times, more than just 3 times. But the point being is that requires a lot of training and also monitoring. You can't just do it just because you feel like it. So the point being is that sometimes people need to realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you money to do good with it, not to just simply buy more houses or to have a Roth IRA account and maybe perhaps a 401k too, just in case. You have to make sure you use your money wisely. Now, we're coming out with this movie, Tikkun HaBrit, BeEzrat HaShem, very soon. Pray for us that we succeed. Pray for us that we survive. Because this particular movie, unlike any other thing we've ever done, is mamash 100%, fist fight with the Satan. Everything that could go wrong goes wrong. It's very difficult. I don't really want to tell you what's really going on because it's just some stuff that's just not necessary for anyone to know. It's just really difficult. And it's beyond the scope of this conversation. But I can tell you for sure, it's not an easy battle. This thing comes out, it's almost finished. It's just that if it actually comes out, it's going to be like the biggest mesirut nefesh, the biggest sacrifice we've ever made in our life. It's just that difficult. So it's a very big spiritual battle. Anybody that's going to help support this particular film, the distribution of it, we're going to try to have it obviously marketed everywhere on the internet. All things considered, it seems like marketing is becoming more and more difficult since Google, Facebook, and Twitter have decided to become the new president, and the new media, the new regulatory body, the new government, the new world order, the new everything. I think that marketing is becoming a little bit more difficult. We'll have to be a little bit more creative than typically. But nonetheless, we're going to do everything possible to market it that way. We're also going to print out DVDs to distribute the hard copy. We're going to print out cards, and so on and so forth. There's going to be a lot of different ways to get this film out there, because we literally want to get this film out there to tens of millions of people right off the bat. Tens of millions of people right off the bat. If we did 2 million with the film of my private life, this should do at the very least 20 or even 200 million. That's how good this film is, but it's going to require a lot of help. So this is the time where people need to look at their investment account and see which one is more valuable to them, the investment in this world or the investment in the next world. That's why I mention it. That's why it's important, because again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that it's going to be ready around this time. Our goal is to have this film, to answer everybody's question of when. Our goal is to have this film out before the end of Shovavim. So we have 5 more weeks. We're hoping, BeEzrat HaShem, we'll have this film out within the next month. Okay, now that means that we're going to have a lot of miracles happen during that time. But nonetheless, we're going to need a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of miracles, a lot of everything during that time. BeEzrat HaShem, I don't want to release this film just hoping for the best. We want to have a serious plan, a serious marketing plan, a budget, and so on and so forth. So, BeEzrat HaShem, if we can raise at least a few $100,000, I think that we can get it done. But again, I think that once it's out, raising money for it's going to be relatively easy. Only problem is it's going to be a little too late for certain parts of the plan. Once people see how good it is, they're going to want to invest their house into it. It's just simply that good. But it kind of kills part of the plan to do it after the fact. So again, this is just a advice. Anyone that wants to listen, Baruch haba.
When you have a dream and you see a pretty woman? You've had that? Now, you never actually see an ugly woman in dreams. It's always a pretty woman. And by the way, it's always the same woman for all of us. All of us have a dream of the same exact woman. And she's more dangerous than the Satan himself. Who is she? You're not even allowed to say her name. What are you going to call her for?
People are addicted to it.
I live a normal life.
Repent and you will find salvation.
Now, when it comes to morality, Rabotai Yekarim, the MUSSAR in essence is teaching morals. And we teach what we focus on, although we talk about halacha from time to time, we talk about different laws, we talk about different intricate stories and so on. Our main focus throughout the years has been teaching people ethics, to be an ethical human being, which means you have to be in accordance with the Torah. Now, many would fight with this argument, saying, no, I don't think you need to be in line with the Torah in order to be ethical. I think you can be ethical without the Torah. Now, of course, we know they're wrong, but nonetheless, this is part of the topic that we're going to talk about today, where we're starting now in this Chazon Ish series, in this Sefer, Emunah V'Bitachon, we're going into chapter 3. We're starting chapter 3, and chapter 3 talks about Mussar ve'alacha, morality and halacha, the connection between the two. The Chazon Ish says as follows, in section 1 of chapter 3. Halachic rulings sometimes have ramification in the realm of morals, and it is the halacha that sometimes in effect sets moral standards. In so many words, sometimes we need the halacha to teach us what is the right ethical behavior somewhere. And of course, he's going to give us an example this rest of the shiur is going to be based on. For instance, in the Gemara Masechet Bava Batra, page 21b, it says that when it comes to school teachers, of course, referring to Torah school teachers, there can be no claim of infringement on one's livelihood. En ta'ana shel pasakta lechayuti. What is this pasakta l'chayuti? What is this a infringement on one's livelihood? If there are teachers working in a certain city, and suddenly other teachers come from another place and start teaching there, it is the nature of people not to be satisfied with the old and familiar. And everyone starts sending their children to the newcomers, impinging on the livelihood of the local teachers. In so many words, there is a business. A business. In this particular case, he's mentioning the business of yeshiva, of a school. So he says this yeshiva has an exception. Why? In the Torah, when it comes to halacha, we also have certain behaviors, certain morals that have to go in line with this halacha. First and foremost, we have a ruling. The ruling is that if, let's say for example, there is a toy store already in place in a certain town for a long time, there for a while, and he has a business, and he's making his living, and everybody knows who he is, and you come along, you say, you know what, looks like this guy's doing good. Look, he has this toy store already for 20 years. With the money from the toys, he built himself $1 million house. With the money from the toys, he's got 3 cars. With the money from the toys, he's got a $30,000 watch. With the money from the toys, he built a Bet Knesset. He's got so many words. This guy's making a lot of money from toys. What am I going to do? I'm going to open a toy store too. But not only open a toy store, I'm going to open it next door to him. So maybe some of his customers that are not happy with him will come to me. This is not allowed. Not allowed. Why? Go open a toy store somewhere else. Why do you have to open next to him? You are being immoral. You're specifically targeting another Jew. You're specifically targeting another person. It's not good. You're an immoral person. Rasha, actually. Now, it actually says in another place in the Gemara that if somebody calls you a Rasha, but unwarranted, meaning you're not really a Rasha, he just decided that he wants to call you a Rasha for no reason, or unjustified reason, better said, he is a Rasha now. By him calling you a Rasha, when it's unwarranted, he becomes a Rasha. So what does that really mean when he becomes a Rasha? Since he's a Rasha, you are now allowed to open a store next to him, competing directly with his business. Hence, the significance of being a Rasha is not just, in after this life, reward, punishment. No. There's also a certain treatment of how you deal with certain people in this world if they're Rashaim. If a person's a Rasha, you could actually open a competing business next door to him. But of course, you can't be a judge of everything. It has to be relatively obvious. If he's a Mechalel Shabbat, if it's someone that specifically violates Torah openly, and it's obvious that he's a Rasha, not just someone that you know, you're the only one in the world that knows he's a Rasha, and everybody else is going to question what you're doing. But the point being is that the Gemara tells us that there are certain businesses that have an exception. Meaning that these businesses have to be treated differently than the rest of businesses. Where if it's a school, the Gemara says there's no competition here. Meaning, no consideration to infringement. Meaning that he has a yeshiva here for 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, doesn't make a difference. You want to open a yeshiva next door to him? Chazak ubol, go for it. Why? The Gemara says in Masechet Bava Kama, page 21b, that Rav Yosef says, and Rav Huna himself, one concedes, that with regards to those who teach Torah to children, but this is also teachers of anything, if you're a KIRUV organization, if it's a Bet Midrash, if it's a Kollel, same thing. It's not just necessarily teaching children. Anyone that's teaching Torah, a teacher who is established in a particular mavoy, a specific town or area, cannot prevent another from teaching in that mavoy. For the master said, Ezra decreed for the Jewish nation that one teacher should be installed next to the other. Meaning not only you can't stop him, but it's actually a good idea if he opens up right next door to you. Why? It should be a concern that a teacher might become lazy because he has all the students already. It's his town, like the situation that we have actually in Tel Zion in Israel. Our little organization opened up a girls' seminary several days a week in Yerushalayim. We were expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 girls to show up. Now we're, because of Corona, we're getting, obviously there's a shutdown, so we're really doing a lot of programs that are much smaller. But nonetheless, when we were going, we're getting 250, 200 girls. Almost half didn't show up. Why? Because there's one Rasha that has a girls' seminary over there for a really, really long time, and the whole town is scared to death of him. Everyone's scared to death of him. So when he found out that we're opening the place, he came to Rav Alimi and his wife. He said, no, you're not going to open the place. He said, well, it's not up to you if we're going to open. We're going to open, we're going to do what we want. He said, no, I'm going to make sure you don't open. I'm going to cause you problems and this and that. He goes, why? We're teaching Torah. We're not teaching people to smoke crack. What do you care? He goes, no, this is my town. This is my town. Yeah, but we're allowed halachically to open it. In fact, the Torah says otherwise. The Torah says that we should open next door to each other. He didn't like it. Why? He figured that, he wants to rule the land. He thinks that he's God. So Ezra Sofer says sometimes this happens. Sometimes it happens when somebody opens a place, he builds it up, and he doesn't want to let anyone else in. And now you may think, okay, but maybe what if he's a really good teacher? Why should anybody bother him? Well, if he's a good teacher, he shouldn't be bothered. If he's a good teacher, that means that he should be happy that there's more available and more good out there. The only time he's bothered is if he's not a good teacher. If he's become too lax, if he's become too conceited, if he's become, perhaps he's doing certain things that he shouldn't be doing, and so on and so forth. So as Sofer said, actually, it's good for people, for Torah teachers to open up right next door to each other. Why? Keeping up the competition. Keeping up the competition. So much so, kin'at sofrim tarbe chokhmah. So much so, as Sofer says, that jealousy between scholars increases wisdom in each of the teachers, because they're fearful that their rivals will perform better than them. So in the Torah world, it's actually treated very differently than in other businesses. But believe it or not, this is also in other businesses too. It's not just in the Torah world. It's in other businesses, but it's also another way to learn MUSSAR, of how the sages thought about everything. One of the businesses is when it comes to cosmetics. Cosmetics. Now you would think, wait a minute, why would cosmetics have the same treatment as a yeshiva? Where did you come up with that? Let's look at the Gemara. The Gemara says that at that time, in those days, there used to be people that were dealing with cosmetics in a town for a long time, but there were always all types of peddlers that would come into the town for a short period of time, sell their cosmetics, and leave. Ezra Sofer says they're allowed to do it, no problem. Yeah, but I already have my shop over here for 20 years. This guy's coming, his peddler's coming over here, and he's taking business. After he leaves, his friend comes. Why didn't you let all these people come? If they want to do something, let them do it somewhere else. Ezra Sofer, the sages thought about everything. Ezra Sofer said, no, we want these peddlers to come. These cosmetic salesmen, we want them to come into town. Why? Because it's good for Bnot Israel. It's good for the daughters of Israel to have all types of available cosmetics to make them feel good, to make them feel pretty for their husbands, and it improves Shlom Bait. And when there is Shlom Bait in a Jewish house, Ish Isha Zachu, Shechina Benem. When there's Shlom Bait between the husband and the wife in a Jewish home, the Shechina comes into that house and fixes all wounds, fixes all problems. So if all we need to have Shlom Bait is a few more cosmetics, the newest thing on the block to come into town, it's good. Yeah, what about it's hurting my parnasa? Don't worry, Hashem will send it to you in another way. So the sages thought about everything. This actually begs the question of why there are certain people that think that a Jewish woman should never use any type of cosmetics, should look like she's like, homeless or something. And it's not necessarily the case. The point is, it's very important for a woman to be beautiful for her husband. When she's in front of her husband, she should be as beautiful as possible. The problem today is that we have many people doing the opposite. For the husband, we look like it's Tisha B'Av, or like they're fasting for a week and a half straight, or maybe they just come out of the Holocaust, something like that. But if they're going to the supermarket, they look like they just came out of a runway show. That's the mistake that we have today. People, the women today many times are looking beautiful in the streets, but at home they look like they have been sleeping for 7 years straight. So again, Chachamim say the cosmetics are good, but remember, it's not cosmetics to go show Steve and Joe, the construction workers down the street, how good you look. This is for your husband. This is for your husband. The point being, Rabotai, is that we have certain businesses that have a unique treatment. There are certain businesses that can cause irreparable damage when they're mistreated. One of them, for example, the Gemara says in Masechet Bava Batra also, in page 21b, same page. It says that several businesses, let's say someone that is a teacher, if he's a bad teacher, that can make permanent damage, which we'll go into in a second. How could that be? Another one is, let's say someone that's a butcher, Jewish butcher. He makes a mistake, all of his clients could be eating tarif, which unfortunately is a problem in the world today. Several rabbis have mentioned that there are problems with shchita in the world, and some of the things that they're saying are 100% correct. I'm not saying that you can't buy kosher food in the world and kosher meat. Surely you can, but does that mean that everything is problemless? No, there are issues. There are issues in the world of shchita. There are issues in the world of kashrut. There are issues nonetheless. There are. When you have people like Ephraim Goldberg as one of the people in the kosher world, surely you know it's not only about kedusha, because the guy's bringing missionaries to his synagogue. How much kedusha could be involved in this place that he's involved in? So that means that, again, there are issues in the world, but that doesn't mean it's not to the extreme where you simply can't eat. Point being is, someone that's a butcher has the Jewish people's lives in his hands. If he cares more about money than he cares about the Jewish neshamot, he could literally be selling tarif to everybody in the community and no one would know. No one would know. Why? He bought donkey meat. He bought some non-kosher cow. He bought some whatever. No one's going to know it. They cooked the meat. They have no idea what it is or what it's not. He bought it for 10% of what he buys kosher meat. Saved himself a bunch of money, but in essence, he's destroying neshamot. All of a sudden, the entire community doesn't know Aleph Bet. All of a sudden, the entire community doesn't want to keep Shabbat anymore. Why? Because it hurts you spiritually. Rashi says that when it says that when we eat non-kosher, don't say that it makes us impure, but rather it makes us stupefied, meaning spiritually stupid. Non-kosher food makes the Jewish people spiritually stupid. Now, it doesn't affect the non-Jew. So if a non-Jew ate kosher food or non-kosher food, it doesn't affect him. Why? Because the Jewish neshama is tuned in a certain way where kashrut affects them. So when a Jew does not eat kosher food, it affects them. It's a very serious story I heard. Heard it a couple of times. There was one time a couple of Avrechim came to Rav Kanievsky. I actually heard this most recently by Rav Meir Eliyahu. Sheikhid, huge, enormous Talmid Chacham. Seems like he knows the entire Torah by heart. Unbelievable. Anyway, he mentions this story, and he says a couple of people came to Rav Kanievsky asking for bracha. And Rav Kanievsky, Kodesh Kodashim, learns the entire Shas Bavli, Yerushalmi, the Zohar, the Sifri, the Sifra, the Midrashim. Who knows what he doesn't learn every single year? Unbelievable how much Kedusha he has. Unbelievable. I wish I could just be like a little speck of dust under his foot. Enormous amount of Torah every single year. Someone asked him, "Oh, can you come to my wedding?" He says, "No, I'm sorry, I have debt." Debt? Kod Rav has debt, I'll pay. He goes, no, I have debt. What do you have? I have 7 pages of Bavli, 7 pages of Yerushalmi, 7 this, 7 this. He goes, who are these people? That's what I have to learn every day. All day, all night he learns. Anyway, 2 guys come to Rav Kanievsky, asking the Rav for a blessing. One of the kids said, give him bracha, bua, which is the famous bracha, bracha v'atzlacha. And the other one, he said, good luck. The guy said, good luck. Okay. Can the Rav give me a blessing? Rav Kanievsky didn't give him a blessing. So the young man, went back to his caller and said, I don't know, Rav Kanievsky, I don't think he likes me. What do you mean, Rav Kanievsky doesn't like you? What do you mean he doesn't like you? Rav Kanievsky, you're Avrech, how can he not like you? Because I know he doesn't want to bless me. So apparently this Rav was connected, and he said, let's go to Rav Kanievsky, and they skipped the line, and he brought the Avrech, the two Avrechim back, and he saw again. First guy gets a blessing, second guy, not given a blessing. So the Rav, said to him, the Rav, is there a problem? Why won't the Rav bless the boy? He says, I don't bless people that eat basar v'chalav. What? I don't bless people that eat milk and meat together. The Rav was shocked. The other boy was shocked. The kid, the guy that was not getting the blessing, started hysterical crying in front of anyone. In front of everyone, he started hysterical crying. Now, they're thinking, what's Rav Kanievsky talking about? What's going on? Until they see this boy start crying hysterical. Boy, going to yeshiva, learning, kollel, this, that, everything his whole life. You're eating milk and meat together? So the boy says, or the young man, I should say, the young man says, I'm sorry, Kvod Rav, I'm sorry, lately, I don't know, I've been weekend, I'm not waiting the whole 6 hours, I'm only waiting 2 hours, sometimes even less, sometimes more, I don't know, I have this desires, I really want to eat, I didn't feel like waiting. 100% what Rav Kanievsky says, the kid's not waiting, he's not following what the sages said, it's like eating milk and meat. And Rav Kanievsky knows this. So they say to Rav Kanievsky, Kvod Rav has Ruach HaKodesh. Rav Kanievsky is the best part of the story. Rav Kanievsky says, no, I don't have Ruach HaKodesh. So how did Kvod Rav know that he's eating milk and meat together? Meaning he's not waiting between the two. How did Rav know? He goes, it's simple. It says in the Torah that every time a person eats milk and meat, he has a image of a gdi. What is it? Not a calf. A calf being roasted on top of his head for 40 days. So that's it. I just saw it. That's it. I don't have Ruach HaKodesh. He doesn't have Ruach. He saw that he has a roasted calf on top of his head. So, but he doesn't have Ruach HaKodesh. The point is, Rabotai, every time people say, no, I don't think Rav Kanievsky knows, I don't think this, I don't think that, anytime they say that, you have no idea what you're dealing with. And this is mamash, a recent story. So anyway, the Chachamim tell us that someone that's in the kosher business has, mamash, the Jewish people's hands in his hands. If he gives the taref, he's destroying neshamot. And if he's caught, by the way, if he's caught selling taref on purpose, he loses his ability to ever sell kosher food ever again, which happened to Rav Ovadia. He caught somebody doing it, he took away his ability to sell kosher food, despite the fact that the guy tried almost killed Rav Ovadia twice, but once in Egypt and once in Eretz Yisrael. Anyway, another business that has a very big risk, meaning that the person can cause irreparable damage, is a bloodletter. In those days, bloodletting was very common. They thought it was healthy. They thought it was good. Today, obviously, we know that it's not necessarily the case, or at least things have changed. But the point is that the bloodletter, if he lets out too much blood, he could inadvertently kill the person. So this also is another one. Another one is a scribe, someone that writes a Torah scroll or mezuzah. If he's not careful, or tefillin. If he's not careful, he connects the two letters, or better yet, he doesn't pay attention, he writes the same word twice, or even if he just misses one letter, single letter, the whole thing is not valid. Now, the people that are using this Torah scroll, or putting on the tefillin, or the mezuzah, or whatever it is, they have no idea. They have no idea that this is happening, that they're doing blessings on a Sefer Torah that's pasul, meaning that everyone, instead of making a mitzvah, they're making a sin, because they're using Hashem's name in vain because their Torah scroll is not valid. Or worse yet, if someone has one of these tefillin that's not valid, because he, I don't know, he bought it for cheap. He just bought it on the internet. He has no idea what's in it, whether it's a real scroll or it's a scroll that's from printer paper, or a Jew wrote it, or a non-Jew wrote it, or girl. He doesn't have an idea what's going on with this thing. He could put on tefillin for 10 years, 20 years with non-valid tefillin. And meaning that 20 years he doesn't get a single mitzvah. In fact, it's a sin. Or sometimes people have mezuzah in their house. That's not a kosher mezuzah. This is one of the only reasons why we got involved in this, and we have these mezuzahs and tefillin on our website. And generally speaking, I only deal with expensive stuff. Why? Because good stuff is expensive. Simple. I have some things that are a little bit cheaper on the mezuzah, but even the cheap ones are expensive in comparison to what you can get elsewhere. Why? Because we specifically cater to people that want to invest into this, and we make sure we know who's writing this mezuzah, who's writing this tefillin. It's a kosher Jew with Yirat Shamayim, and so on and so forth. And it takes a while. I have some people that have ordered stuff 3-4 months ago. They just got the stuff today or yesterday. Why? Or a few days ago. Why? Because it takes a while to get it sometimes, especially with this coronavirus and so on. But the point being is that a person that understands the significance of having a mezuzah in their house, they're not going to think, wait, are you sure I'm going to spend a few $100s on a single mezuzah? Why can't I get like a, buy one, get 18 free or something? Why is it so expensive? Why can't I just print it off the computer? You want to print it off the computer? Bechavo, do whatever you want. But if you want protection from Hashem, it has to follow in accordance to what Hashem said, what the sages instituted, and so on and so forth. So the point is that scribe that you are relying on, that you're going to pay him $20 or $50 or $100, you're relying on that whole $100 that you're spending, or $50 that you're spending, or $3 that you're spending, or free because you're printing it yourself. You're betting the safety of your entire household on that. Now, the funny thing is, security system for your house, you don't have a problem investing $400 or $500 or maybe even $4,000 or $5,000 on a camera system. You have no problem spending a few $100s every month for somebody to give you a phone call every time somebody goes on your grass. You have no problem making sure that the alarm that you have in your car is in sync with the one that you have in your house, is in sync with the one you have in the office, is in sync with the one you have in the pool. You have no problem with that. You have no problem in spending $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20,000 a year on insurance policies. No problem whatsoever. But for mezuzah, for tefillin, for kedusha, no, I want to get a discount. That's what we call stupid. Spiritually, though. Spiritually, not personally. Spiritually, you're stupid. Why? Because you're investing in the wrong things. You're investing in the wrong things. You can invest in all those things, but really the most important investments are the kedusha. Why? Because you have a kadosh baruch Hu protecting you. This is what we learned. Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah. When all of the Romans were trying to get unkelos to come to the kingdom, go back to Christianity, go back to idolatry, go back to the garbage, or risk being killed, what saved them? The mezuzah. Why did the mezuzah save him? He kissed the mezuzah, so the soldiers asked him, why are you kissing that piece of stick? He goes, it's not a piece of stick. That stick has a scroll in it that's my God's name is in there. He goes, why do you have to kiss your God? He goes, because my God, my king, unlike your king that's scared in a castle and he has to send you to protect him, my king, by having that mezuzah, he protects me whether I'm inside the house or outside the house. At that moment, all of those soldiers became Jews. They all went, said, okay, we want to be like you. We want a king like yours. They all converted to Judaism. They all converted to Judaism, every single one of them. They stopped sending people to Unkelos. Why? Every goy they would send them would convert to Judaism. So the point being is that when a person understands what a mezuzah is, he's willing to invest money into it. But again, remember, mezuzahs are only for Jews. I know that sometimes, there was a little bit of uncomfortableness where a few really righteous, fantastic, non-Jewish people contacted us. They even took an initiative and purchased a mezuzah or a tefillin in our website. And as soon as we got word of it, I realized that this is a non-Jew, and I would tell him, sorry, I cannot sell you a mezuzah. I cannot sell you tefillin. Like, why not? Our money is not green. Why not? I said, it's not that it's money on green. We love you. We appreciate you. But we're not allowed to sell a mezuzah or tefillin to non-Jews. Simply not allowed. Yeah, but my other rabbi sold you. Okay, your other rabbi cares more about money than he cares about God. We're not allowed, simply. It's no offense, it's nothing against you. It's if you're buying it because you want the protection of God, I'm not selling it for the same exact reason. And you shouldn't want to buy it for the same exact reason. You want protection by God? Follow the Torah. So again, several times people were surprised. What, you're going to send me back $2,000? You're going to send me back $2,000, $3,000? Just to not, yeah, I'm going to send you back the money. And I have sent the money countless times. Baruch Hashem hasn't been that many times because not that many went and bought it. But we got that test a few times where non-Jews would buy the mezuzah or the tefillin on our website and we refund them the money. It is what it is. Why? Because it's we're not allowed. One particular case, this righteous Noahide, when he found out that we're not allowed, he was so impressed by the fact that we wouldn't sell it to him. He said, you know what? Keep the money anyway. Use it for KIRUV. Oh HaShem, he's a smart person. He realized he wanted to do something good. He ended up doing something even better. We use the money for KIRUV. But the point being is that sometimes people will do anything for money. And Baruch Hashem, we are working really hard not to be like that. When a person has Jewish lives in his hands, he has to take good care of them. If he's a butcher, if he is a bloodletter, if he is a scribe, he has to know that his profession has a lot on the line. Needless to say, a teacher. A teacher has a lot on the line. What else do we learn? David Amalek, the Gemara says in page 21b, an extraordinary story about one of the key people in David Amalek's army, Yoav. Yoav alav shalom comes to David and he says, David, you sent me on a mission to go kill all of the males in Amalek, all of the Zichrei Amalek, and I killed them. Took me 6 months. But I didn't leave until I killed all of the males in Amalek's army. David says to him, why did you do that? So Yoav responds, what do you mean why did I do it? You sent me to go kill all the males. David says to Yoav, no, I sent you to go fulfill the Torah commandment, limchot et zecher Amalek, to destroy, to wipe out the memory of Amalek. Zecher, not Zichrei Amalek. Or Zachar Amalek. Zachar. Zachar is the males of Amalek. I didn't tell you to go destroy Zachar Amalek. I told you to go destroy Zecher Amalek. Although it's spelled exactly the same, the vowels, the nikud, are slightly different. Whereas Zecher, which means the memory of Amalek, has the 2 dots. Zachar has the little plus, upside down plus sign. So Yoav says, well that's what I learned. I learned that you pronounce this word as Zachar Amalek. Where'd you learn that from? Because my rabbi when I was a kid. David Amalek says, we just lost an opportunity to destroy Amalek. We had an opportunity. It was an auspicious time in history. The window opened and gave us an opportunity, which only happened twice before this in all of history. The time of Moshe Rabbeinu, which Hashem stopped. At the time of Shaul HaMelech, which Shaul unfortunately messed up. And right now, it's the 3rd time in history that we have the opportunity to destroy Amalek, and we just missed it. Why? Misreading of the verse. Mispronouncing of a word. Yoav goes back to his Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, what did you teach me? Did you teach me that this verse says Zecher Amalek or Zachar Amalek? The rabbi says, well, it says Zecher Amalek. But you used to say Zachar, and I didn't correct you. I felt bad. Correcting you. You're a cute little boy. Yoav says to him, Aru oseh malechet Hashem Yeremiyah. Cursed is the one who does the work of Hashem negligently. Look at the damage that you've caused by not correcting me because you thought that you're more merciful than God. You thought that you're going to be really nice to me because you don't want to correct me. You don't want to give me MUSSAR. You don't want to teach me because you're afraid of what? Offending me? Look what happened. That lesson, that shiur got ingrained in my mind, and now we just missed an opportunity to destroy Amalek. You know how much we're going to suffer because of this? And the Torah says, cursed is such a person, cursed is such a teacher that teaches kids negligently. So the teacher's scared because Yoav takes out the sword and says, cursed is such a teacher. He's upset. We missed an opportunity. Look what you did. People are going to die because of this. So the teacher, the rabbi says to him, okay, so let the teacher stay cursed. Meaning, he's referring to himself. Let him stay cursed. Don't kill him. Yoav says to him, also it says in the Torah, and also cursed is the one who withholds his sword from shedding blood. He doesn't want to offend anyone. He's scared about the wife and kids of this wicked person. He doesn't want to fulfill a Torah commandment to kill somebody at a certain time of war. Cursed is such a person. Meaning, Rabotai, Yoav had an obligation to kill his teacher. And the Gemara says, that's what he did. He says, cursed is the one who teaches kids with negligence, teaches Torah with negligence. Cursed is the one who teaches the word of HaShem with negligence, like you don't feel like being there. They make mistakes, who cares? They're not following, who cares? They're not even showing up to class, who cares? Who cares? Cursed is such a person. And then when, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. No, sorry, it's too late. He kills him. That's what happened. Now, of course, today we don't have the right or permission to do such a thing for all the wicked people that are out there. But nonetheless, you see how serious the Torah is about teaching Torah the right way. Teaching Torah the right way, Rabotai Karim. Anyway, the same Torah that we have, the same David HaMelech, the same holy Torah that we have, says, when it comes to teaching, the more Torah teachers, the merrier, the better, the holier, the greater. I wish I didn't use that word merrier, but nonetheless, it's there. It's part of the English vocabulary. But you get my point. So, the Chazon Ish says, now these teachers, these rabbis are coming into town. They want to teach Torah. And naturally, the people that are not satisfied with the old and the familiar teachers that are in town, there's always going to be a bunch of people like that. Oh, thanks heavens that you're here. Yeah, we hate this rabbi. Well, you didn't say anything for 2 years. You sent your kids there. How come you didn't say anything until now? How come all of a sudden you hate him? How come all of a sudden you're we needed something new. There's always going to be those people. There's always going to be those people that they got too familiar, they got too used to the old, and they can't wait for something new. Not because something new is better, but because they feel it's better. So there's always going to be certain people like that. And of course, the guy, the yeshiva, the local yeshiva, the local bet midrash, the local rabbi is going to lose out. He's going to lose some customers. And people start sending their children to the newcomers, which hurts the livelihood of the local teachers. Now, the injured teachers, meaning that the local teachers that are getting injured by this, begin to hate the newcomers who are threatening their livelihood. And that hatred causes them to think up all manner of pretexts, faults, and libels to use against them until they get used to speaking ill of them. Look at what the words that the Chazon Ish uses. He says, they see this competition coming to town. They don't like it. So they start talking amongst each other. I don't think he's that good. He won't survive. You see this guy? This. They start saying some things. Then somebody walks in. Hey, what are you guys talking about? No, you see that new guy? He just walked in, just started a YouTube channel. He just, he's giving out CDs. See that guy? What do you think of that guy? I don't know, I was waiting for you. I don't know. Oh, all of a sudden they feel comfortable talking to him and him and him and him. And before you know it, they get comfortable saying all types of things about him, about somebody else, all types of lies, all types of lashon hara amongst each other. And they don't even think about lashon hara. They don't even think about it's forbidden. Why? They're doing it so often, they got used to it. It became permissible in their eyes. The sin became permissible in their eyes. Why? They got used to it. They got used to speaking ill of them. And this, unfortunately, Rabotai, is very common. This is why the Rambam, I saw it with my own eyes one time when he talks about Lashon Hara. He says someone that said Lashon Hara on a certain occasion still has to be punished, but has a share of the world to come. What do you mean on an occasion? Because surely someone that speaks Lashon Hara on a regular basis, the Rambam says, has no share of the world to come. Someone that made Lashon Hara a regular part of their daily speech, a regular part of their Shabbat table speech, a regular part of their life, constantly saying Lashon Hara so often they forgot it's forbidden, surely they have no share of the world to come. Surely they have no share of the world to come. HaShem Yishmor. Sometimes we get so used to, every single one of us. We talk, we forget it's Lashon Hara. Why? We got used to talking. That's why you have to always be careful. Wait, is what I'm saying connected to the Torah? Is what I'm saying relevant? Is what I'm saying productive? Is what I'm saying even allowed? This is something each and every single one of us has to work on. Each and every single one of us. Why? Sometimes you want to get something off your chest. Somebody hurts you, somebody this, somebody that. I always tell you, the best thing in the world to do is never talk about people. But it makes life very difficult. Why? Because most of the conversations we like to have is about people. That's natural for all people. So that's why it's good to learn Torah and tell stories, because in essence you're talking about people, just not people that are alive today. It's stories about people that lived in the Torah. Anyway, things deteriorate further as they get used to saying ill things about these new teachers, to the point where they begin to libel the newcomers. To libel the newcomers falsely and awaken the feeling of mercy of the townspeople against their seeming cruelty. Quarrels and fights follow, and sometimes the locals take revenge on the newcomers to the best of their ability. Because now they don't like this new guy, they don't like this new thing, they don't like that. Tell people, see what this guy's doing? Look at that. He's half my age, he's coming to take my parnasa. See that? He couldn't go somewhere else, he couldn't do something else. And start touching everybody's emotions. Look, I'm here, I'm working, I'm trying to help. Well, I'm not helping you guys, I'm helping, right? Oh, see? And look at what he's saying about me. He's saying I'm not a good teacher. He says I'm a heretic. He says just because I brought a missionary to the synagogue, I'm a bad person. What? I'm a bad person? You guys were at my house last week. And he starts touching people's emotions. They forget to think. He starts thinking for them. Because of all the nonsense that he says, all the nonsense she says, all the nonsense. And instead of people thinking for themselves what's right, what's wrong, what's allowed, what's not allowed, they think with their emotions. And to help them get to that conclusion that their emotions should be against the common enemy, he starts making up lies. He's a thief. He cheats. He's a liar. That he's a murderer. He's a this. Make up all types of stuff. Yeah, just look up just look up this. Just look up this. Yeah, you'll see. They make up anything. Why? When you don't have a legitimate argument, what do? You have to discredit the other party somehow. By making up stuff. This happens constantly in politics, this happens in the news, this happens everywhere. Now, unfortunately, what ends up happening is that there's always followers that have less brain and a lot of emotions. A little bit of brain and a lot of emotions. Sometimes it's good to have some people like that. They're passionate, they're good. But sometimes it's dangerous. If nobody's supervising them, they can do stupid things. So that's what happens a lot of times with these quarrels with people. There's always like a follower or two or three or 15 or 50 that just decide to start fighting. You know, you saw this in the White House just the other day. I'm not really sure if it was really planned or not planned. That's not really my business, nor do I care. But the point is, surely no one really wanted that result. At least not, I don't think Donald Trump wanted that result, that people would break into the White House, start breaking stuff. I don't think he thought that that's going to help his whole claim. So that's not part of the plan. Now, of course, that could have actually been planned by the other side, but that's not really our business. The point being is, that type of stuff happens constantly, where you see there's, let's say, a dispute by big Rosh Yeshivas. And then you see, okay, he says yes, he says no, he says right, he says wrong. And all of a sudden, you see the Talmidim of both yeshivas show up to each other's yeshiva and smash chairs on each other. Who told you to go fist fight? Who told you to do these things? This has happened in history. This has happened. Even though it was not Rosh Yeshiva never said such a thing. Never said go beat up another Jew. Never said such a thing. But it happens. Why? Sometimes there's more emotions than there is brain. It happens. And the locals take revenge on the newcomers to the best of their ability. Now, all of these actions would be clean of any sin or transgression if, according to halacha, the locals were indeed allowed to hinder the newcomers. If so, the newcomers could be the sinners, as they would be going against the halacha that was told to Moshe Rabbeinu on Mount Sinai. Under such circumstances, there could be no prohibition against conducting such a struggle against them. The hatred would not be causeless. The prohibition against lashon hara, against slander, would not apply. And indeed, it would be a sacred battle, a legitimate, even halachically commendable battle aimed at setting things right religiously. What? This, Rabotai, is my favorite part. Why? Here, the Chazon Ish not only tells us, let's look at the right perspective, but he also tells us the magnitude of being on the wrong side. The magnitude of being on the wrong side, which in today's world, especially in the Jewish world, people don't understand the magnitude of being on the wrong side. You see, here we have an halacha that inspires, or in essence enforces, a certain type of moral behavior. If you have a certain business, you are not allowed to open next to the same business that's already there. Unless it's Torah, it's in KIRUV, it's a Bet Midrash, it's a yeshiva. Even if it's a yeshiva, if you're going to go teach Torah, you could open it anywhere you want. Even if there was a yeshiva there for 1,000 years, you could open next door, he says. So those people that have been there for 10, 20 years, they're now telling everybody, hey, these newcomers, they're opening their yeshiva over here. We don't like it. These are evil people. These are bad people. These are this. These are that. Making up all types of lies, saying lashon hara about them, and so on and so forth. Chazon Ish says, listen, if it's true that these new teachers are not allowed to come, if just like any other business, just like as if it was a toy store, if there wasn't a specific exception for Torah, and this was like a toy store or anything else, then technically, what does it mean? It means that the people that are coming, the new guy, he's a rasha for breaking into a new community. Who told you to do such a thing? He's a rasha for doing such a thing. On top of that, there's no prohibition against talking about him, against hating him. You're allowed to hate him. You're allowed to talk about him. In fact, there is no prohibition against saying lashon hara about him. You're allowed to say lashon hara about him. Why? This guy came in, he's starting your business. He's not allowed to be here. In fact, talking lashon hara about him, saying all the bad things about him, all of these things would be considered as a sacred battle. Kiddush Hashem. This is the opposite of reality for most people. Why? Anytime we mention one of these reshaim, one of these wicked people that distorts the Torah, everybody's first argument, oh no, the fans usually, not the fans of ours, but the fans of the reshaim. Oh, lashon hara, you should be ashamed of yourself. Should be unity, should be this, should be this. Do you even know lashon hara rules? So let's see. Let's see, Rabotai Karim. Why? Because this means everything changes. Now we're going to finish this particular section, then we're going to go into the details of what this actually means. And then we're going to add something new to one of the people we mentioned recently. Now the halacha, Rabotai, if it was that it's forbidden, prohibition against slander would not apply. In fact, it would be a sacred battle, a legitimate battle, a logically commendable battle, aimed at setting things right. But now the halacha has decreed otherwise, that competition between scholars increases wisdom in both parties, and that this principle takes precedence over the livelihood of individuals, meaning more Torah is more important than your money, your pocket. Yeah, what if I can't eat anymore? Don't worry, Kadosh Baruch Hu will give you to eat. Yeah, but he took all my students. Don't worry, Kadosh Baruch Hu knows that too. So wait, so my whole school should go bankrupt just for the sake of more Torah? If that's what Kadosh Baruch Hu wants, yes. Mind-boggling. See, he says, this principle takes precedence over the livelihood of individuals. The newcomers are acting in accordance with the law, with the halacha, and those that oppose them are attacking innocent people. When they hate them in their hearts, they're making a sin, a transgression, prohibiting against hating one's fellow Jew. You hate him because he's competing with you, that's a sin. And when they speak evil of him, that's another sin, it's another transgression. Of what? Prohibition of slander, lashon hara. And when they congregate people together for the purpose of quarreling against them, it's another sin. What sin is this? The prohibition of not being like Korach, who congregated people in opposition to Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron HaKohen. And when they take revenge on them by refusing them favors, you don't want to serve him, he comes to your store, you don't want to sell him something, he comes to the synagogue, you don't want to give him a chair, and so on and so forth. They're transgressing the prohibition against taking revenge, meaning you were acting morally right by rejecting them, by hating them, by saying lashon hara about them, if there were any other business. But the second it became the Torah business, your morals did not follow halacha, and therefore they became immoral. Therefore they became unlawful. Therefore they became sins. When it says in the Gemara Masechet Bava Batra that Rav Huna agrees that in the case of school teachers, one cannot hinder the competition, many moral rules are included in this halacha as a result from it. Now you see, Rabotai Karim, many times people think that they could be moral without the Torah. Without the Torah. This is impossible. Because just like we saw an example, and surely if the sages are given an example, this is a reality. This has happened, this happens. I can tell you firsthand this is happening to us in Eretz Yisrael, where that wicked so-called rabbi over there is telling us, he's in essence causing almost 200 girls not to come to our seminary for free. It's not like we're taking money off of his plate. It's free. Refuses. Why? He wants control. He wants control. This happens in other places. This happens in other places. This unfortunately happens all the time. People are fighting. Now, if it was a regular business, then technically you're allowed to not allow them to go in, to not service them, to say lashon hara about them, and so on and so forth. But once the morals do not follow the halacha, then that means they're immoral. And many times you'll see that the people taking morals into their own description, if you will, when people decide what is morally right and what is morally wrong themselves, the worst things in the world happen. I'll give you a few examples. There's something that's called in Hebrew, and it's unfortunately is common in English, amatat chesed, which is killing for kindness. Killing for kindness. Euthanizing. Where people, doctors specifically, and unfortunately families of sick people, sometimes because of age, sometimes because of a deadly disease, decide that the patient is suffering too much and therefore decide to kill them. And if that's not bad enough, they call it kindness. They say, look, he's suffering a lot. We just decided to end the suffering by simply pulling the plug and letting him die. Isn't that kindness? He's not suffering anymore. Now, if this world was it, if this world was the beginning and end of life, you're right. You're 100% right. If he ends his life here and there's nothing after this life, then why should he suffer? But since we know from the Torah that life does not end here, and since there is endless evidence in the Torah and also in the scientific world that there is life after death, you ending his life prematurely is 100% murder. And if that's not bad enough, you called murder kindness. The question is, kindness to who? Kindness to him, that now he suffers less in this world, but because of that, he ends up suffering more in the next world, because that suffering that he or she had before they officially die, whenever Hashem decided, that's worth a ton of much worse suffering in the next world. A minute of suffering here is worth a ton of suffering over there. A person that understands that, looks at the commentary by the Ramban, Nachmanides, at the book of Job, where he says 70 years of suffering in this world like Job did. He suffered for 1 year. But let's say a person suffers 70 years like Job, which he had the worst type of suffering any human ever had in the history of mankind. No one suffered more than Job. All of his kids died. He lost all of his money. He got so sick to the point where there was maggots coming out of his body. Be disabled. The worst of the worst. Hashem eventually healed him. But the point being is there's a certain damage that he couldn't bring back the kids back to life. Now he gave him new kids. But the point being is that he suffered for a year, if you will. The Ramban writes, somebody suffering like Job for 70 years is not even equivalent to 1 minute. 1 minute in Gehenna. 1 minute in Gehenna. But that suffering that you have, that 1 minute of suffering that you have here, is worth a ton of replacement of time that's potentially going to be suffering in Gehenna. Which means that when you kill somebody prematurely because you want to end their suffering to be kind to them, you're not being kind to them. In fact, there are many stories I've heard from Rav Nisim again, from Rav Mizrahi, from my Rav Ephraim, and others, that people that have had these dreams or experiences, all types of things, where they realize what happens life after death. In one particular case, there was a doctor himself, who asked the family to kill their family member, and the family refused. But he said, yeah, but he's suffering, he's never going to be alive again, he's done, all you're doing is just killing him, and slower, and he's suffering. And the family refused to listen to him. This doctor decided that he is more merciful than the family is, and he pulled the plug himself, killing the person. He says that night, that person that he killed prematurely came to him in a dream and started yelling at him and screaming at him, and he didn't know what to do with himself. But he thought, okay, maybe it's just in my head. But he kept coming to him every single night to the point where he got scared to go to sleep. He was scared to go to sleep. Eventually he came to, I believe it was Rabbi Yaron. He said, for the Rav, what am I going to do with this? He says, what did you do? Tells him what he did. He says, you're a murderer. So okay, I'm sorry, but I didn't know there was even life after death. I didn't know nothing. I didn't believe in anything. Now I know, but what am I going to do? He says, you have to do teshuvah. You have to keep everything. You have to learn Torah for his sake. You have to do KIRUV. You have to help people. The guy did complete teshuvah, turn around his life, little by little. Not only did the dream stop, but this person that he killed prematurely thanked him for doing all these mitzvot on his behalf. But the point being, Rabotai, is that he came to him angry at him because he said, listen, you killed me. I was supposed to die in an hour after you killed me. I was going to die. But that hour, because of that hour, they won't let me go to heaven. They won't let me go to heaven. I have to suffer in Gehenna because of you. And because of that, I'm going to torture you. I'm going to this to you. I'm going to that to you. Hashem Yishmo. Now, people that euthanize other people, they think they're doing them a favor. In Israel, they even call it amatat chesed, killing as a kindness. Now, surely if you go to one of these clinics, one of these murder institutions, they will have a smile. They will tell you that they're doing the world a service and they're helping people out. Now, as a side note, if someone is suffering dearly and it's to the point where it's certain that this person is just a matter of time before he dies, and he's suffering dearly, and he himself tells you, if I get to a point where you have to resuscitate me, don't resuscitate me. Then you're allowed to listen to him. But that's only if he says it, not if somebody else says it or you decide as a doctor. Only if he says it himself. He's in essence saying, don't resuscitate me if I lose consciousness or something like that happens. You're allowed to listen to him. But to go pull a plug on somebody and to kill somebody with a shot or something else, there's no kindness in that whatsoever. It's 100% murder, and a person that does it or enables another person to do it is going to be punished severely as a murderer. Now, another place, another type of institution that thinks that it's doing the world a service, not only doing the world a service, they call it healthcare. Necessary healthcare. Throughout all of this coronavirus 12 months that we've had or so, bars, restaurants, theaters, Baruch Hashem, have all closed down. For the most part, we want them to remain closed because there's a lot of garbage going on there anyway. But the point is, for the business world, it's not exactly very good because you need some of these institutions for a functioning economy. Now, when they ask Bill Gates about this, he says, yes, it's very good. It's very good that restaurants and bars and theaters are closed. It's safe. It's better to protect people. Interestingly, the very same Bill Gates has donated over $81 million in the last 12 or so years to abortion clinics. While he's saying it's safer to not have restaurants and otherwise to protect lives, he has no problem spending almost $100 million or $81 million on murdering innocent babies. So much so, Rabotai Karim, that no matter what we do and how many people die from this coronavirus, you have the whole world shutting down unlike any other time in history in every single place in the world. No other time in history has such a thing happened. No other time has the world been in such a panic. No other time has the world been in such array with so much conspiracy, so much doubt, so much panic, and so on and so forth. You would think 500 million people died, chas v'shalom. You would think 2-3 billion people died. If you look at the way how much time people invest into watching news, how much time people invest into monitoring what's happening, how many people died, how many this, how many that, how many websites were created for this, how many stories are written about it. In reality, okay, Baruch Hashem, less than 2 million people died. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of people, but not in the grand scheme of things when you have nearly 60 million people die every year. Now, the truth is, it's much greater than 60 million. Why? Because according to the Worldometer, which was also reported by Live Action, a website that deals with fighting against abortion, 42.7 million babies were aborted in 2020. Again, 42.7 million abortions in 2020. 300,000 more than the year before. An historical high, 42.7 million abortions. That means the world was supposed to have 42 million more people. Probably more than that because some of them were twins. 42 million. We're crying about 2 million people that died, adults. Some of them were already old. Some of them were this. Some of them were that. While we're not even shedding a tiny little tear over 42.7 little babies that never sinned, at least in this world that we know of, getting murdered in cold blood. And companies like Planned Parenthood, Imach Shimam V'Zichram, that perform millions of abortions with no qualms and nothing to think twice about, continue to get hundreds of millions of dollars and say, we are doing the world a service. We are doing the world a service. In fact, some of their competitors in Israel and other places in America, they started a new type of kindness. A new type of kindness. What kind of kindness? There's a new type of kindness. What's the kindness? Catering to young women that are about to have an abortion, in helping them select what kind of abortion is best for you. Is vacuuming the baby out of your body the best while crushing it at the same time? Or is just outright crushing the baby? Is that the best thing for you, with the clamp that crushes the baby to pieces, the skull of a little tiny little baby becoming nothing, crushing all of its bones? Maybe that one's better for you, young lady. Oh, you know what? You don't look like you're ready to have a kid. You're too young. You're only 18 years old. You're only 16 years old. You're only 25 years old. You're only 32 years old. You're not even married. You are married. You're not really ready. You already have too many kids. You maybe don't have this. You're not ready. You know what? The best thing for you? No, the vacuuming is old-fashioned. The crushing, it's not for you. Let's do this. Let's chop him up to pieces, this little baby. This little rat came in unnecessarily. Let's chop him up to pieces. We're going to help you, they tell her. We're going to help you select it. We're going to chop him up to pieces. As a kindness to humanity, we're going to help you dissect the baby. They tell her, this is what you should do. This is a kindness to humanity. A kindness to humanity by helping them select which way of murder they should do. Some even say that these new vaccines have some of the remains of abortions, some of the fetuses, their bodies are sold by Planned Parenthood and other companies like it and are used for different things. And some people are saying that it is very possible that some of these new vaccines are using some of the remains of these abortions. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but nonetheless, I've seen at least one report of it. The point being is that these people that are using these murdered baby parts, these people that are suggesting how to murder the babies, these people that are actually murdering the babies themselves, or better yet, the teenage magazines the teenage magazine that recently publicized a new edition for teenagers. How to get birth control pills without telling your parents. How can you, Miss 10-year-old that shouldn't even be allowed out of her house by herself, how can you get birth control pills without your parents know? Teenage magazine that your parents paid for are teaching you how to lie to the parents that are paying for it. Why? So you can be promiscuous, you can make all types of sins against God and against mankind, and don't even feel any bad about it. Why? No one's gonna know. This is what people think is morally right. This is what people think is kindness. We're helping the teenage girl keep her secret to herself. Everyone needs secrets, they think. And the reality is, Rabotai, is that when a person does not have their morals in line with the rulings of the Torah, it is impossible for that moral to be correct on a regular basis, if ever. Why? Because at some point or another, that moral will show its bias. That moral will show that it's not so flexible. That moral will show that in reality, it's only morally correct because you simply felt that way at that time. But as soon as your feelings change, because the circumstances change, your morals will change. You see, Rabotai, that's why when we mention different types of wicked people that are harming the public, we're not doing it for fame, for fortune. HaShem only knows we're not getting either one, but rather to warn the public of people that are much more dangerous than you would imagine because they present themselves as morally righteous. People like Dennis Prager that we mentioned just last week. He presents himself as Mr. Morals. He presents himself as someone that's morally correct, someone that believes in God, someone that believes that the Torah is from God, and therefore he reads it a lot and he follows it, but yet at the same token, he says, I am admired and invited by the modern Orthodox groups, by the modern Orthodox communities, by Chabad's communities, because I am the only one that's fighting for Judaism. I'm the only one that's fighting for Judaism out in the public, he says. Well, let's see. Mr. Dennis Prager says that he has videos about the 10 Commandments and how you have to observe the Sabbath, or the Shabbat is how we call it. But yet he himself violates Shabbat, just not according to his standards. According to his standards and his morals, he's not violating Shabbat. Even though it says don't light fire on Shabbat, he doesn't believe that a fire that you can't see is not really a fire. Like if you can't see the fire, that means it's not a fire. So when someone has cancer, but you can't see it, it's like they don't have cancer. Like when someone says you have a brain, but you can't see it, that means you don't have it, Dennis. The reality is that Dennis is a liar. Why? Because in the same speech he says that he's a sinner. He only doesn't follow the laws because he's lazy. Literally, a minute and a half later he says, no, I'm not lazy. It's just that I think I'm right and they're wrong. It's just that we have a difference of opinion.
Let's take the laws of Sabbath to take a less controversial example. So there are certain laws of Sabbath that have been made strict over time, right? You and I disagree on the interpretation of Sabbath, for example. You'll drive on Saturdays. I won't drive on Saturdays because there's a rabbinic tradition that you don't drive on Saturdays. So
right. By the way, I don't drive. I wouldn't drive to a ball game. I don't drive shopping. I drive to a Sabbath-oriented
right, exactly.
thing. Okay.
Right.
But it is true that I think rabbinic law can change. I do believe that. As for Torah law, for example, I don't smoke my pipe or a cigar, which I do every day of the week. I don't do it on Shabbat because it says do not burn a fire on the Sabbath. So I just want to make that clear. Right. I take this stuff very seriously.
You see, Abotai, he thinks he's Mr. Morals, he thinks that the sages are wrong and he's right, and little by little, that has mutated into a monster. How big of a monster? If you combine all of the wicked people that we've highlighted and have exposed over the years, you combine them all into one, he is much bigger than all of them combined. Now, it doesn't mean that he's as big as what he says, which is something that we're going to bring to you at another point. He's also a liar, but we'll deal with that at another time. You see, Dennis says that since he's Avi Avot Tumah, he's the father of all Tumah of this generation, now he can do whatever he wants, such as make new rules. Like, if you don't eat bacon, you keep kosher, according to Dennis. Meaning, he says that because if you don't give a lot of tzedakah, that doesn't mean you don't give tzedakah. You give tzedakah, you're just not a lot. If you don't give the whole maaser, then, you only give, let's say, 5% instead of 10%. We don't call you someone that doesn't give tzedakah. So the same thing, if you don't eat pig, we can't say you don't eat kosher. You eat kosher, just less than everybody else. This is as demented as some of the other things that he says. But you see, what I want to focus on today are some other things, really to show that Dennis is much more dangerous than we even thought. On his website, Prager University, you'll see that he has a section behind the speakers, all the different people that are lecturers or representatives of his organization. And you'll see some familiar faces like Ben Shapiro on there, someone that we've spoken about not too long ago. Also someone that has a little bit of a heretical mindset, and now I understand why he's so close to Dennis. I mean, even the picture digitally being so close to Dennis surely has to have some type of an effect on you. Needless to say, the fact that they had an interview next to each other. So, unfortunately for Ben, he became too friendly with Dennis to the point where his heretical mindset has affected him. But that's not really the biggest problem. You see, Dennis claims to be a protector of Judaism, an advocate of Judaism. Now, everyone knows that over the last 2 decades or so, Christianity has stolen over 500,000 of our people. Needless to say, they've murdered millions of us over the years. Let's put that aside and pretend like it didn't happen. And pretend like it's not going to happen if they're given another chance to do so. Let's pretend. Let's just focus on what's actually happening. The missionaries of Christianity are working full-time to destroy Am Yisrael. But they're doing it with a smile, and they're doing it in a way where they're saying, we're providing you kindness. You need money, we'll give you millions. You need place, we'll give you land. You need this, you need that, whatever you want, we'll give you. They bought an endless amount of land in Eretz Yisrael. Hence the reason why they could walk the streets completely ignoring the law, which forbids them from missionizing. But yet they're missionizing openly and no one can say a thing. It's against the law. It's against the Constitution of Israel to missionize in Israel, but they're doing it openly without thinking twice. Rabbi Tovia Singer Sheikhye reported that even during one of the shutdowns in Israel, the whole country was shut down. You weren't allowed to go anywhere. You weren't allowed to get in anywhere. Nothing. No flights, no nothing. Only flights allowed, missionaries coming into Eretz Yisrael. Those billions of dollars that they have invested in the look or in the way of donations are now paying the dividends. They could do whatever they want in Israel. They could do whatever they want in America. They could do whatever they want anywhere in Jewish communities. But rest assured, Dennis is protecting us. He says he's protecting us because he has a video about the 10 Commandments. He has a book that he has commentary on the 5 books of Moses. So he's protecting Judaism. Let's see. Who are his soldiers protecting Judaism? So far we met one of them, which was Ben Shapiro, not so much of a protector. But as you know, with Ben Shapiro comes a whole party. One of them, a very well-known missionary named Andrew Klavan. Andrew Klavan, The missionary, the Christian missionary, the born Jew turned Christian missionary, who has a video for the worst, most dangerous Christian missionary institution on planet Earth called One for Israel, is on the staff, is on the body or speaker or whatever representation of Prager University. We see the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Wow. Dennis Prager is protecting Judaism by utilizing, well, Andrew Klavan is a Christian missionary. If that's not protection for Judaism, what is, fellas? Okay, let's see. Who else is protecting Judaism with Dennis Prager on Dennis Prager's university's website? Oh, let's see. Father Wilson, Miss Campbell, who has joined the permanent faculty at Notre Dame in 1988 and was ordained as a priest in the same year. He teaches in the history department at all levels, from first-year courses to doctoral seminars. His major work, from Roosevelt to Truman, Postrum, Hiroshima in the Cold War, received the Harry S. Truman Book Award of 2008. His newest book, The Most Controversial Decision, was published by Cambridge University. I mean, this guy, he's a scholar in history and so on, but interestingly enough, he's also a father, meaning a priest, meaning a missionary. So, Prager University is protecting Judaism with, I guess, at least 2 missionaries. Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of people on staff. How many missionaries can they possibly be? Oh, hold on a second. Let's see. Felix Guillermo. Felix Guillermo is a Catholic school principal and community leader in Los Angeles. Wow. Faith was central to his Dominican family in New York City, whose values gave him the acumen to challenge a one-sided liberal perspective he encountered in education. So here we go. So Felix, a principal in a Catholic school, which in essence means you have to be a missionary in one form or another. Why? You have to fight for your school, you have to fight for your beliefs. This is in essence what he speaks about. Well, he's also protecting Judaism with Dennis Prager on Prager University's website. Let's see, what else? Oh, Jordan Peterson. He doesn't even need an introduction. His videos are so well known, you probably already have seen them by mistake or on purpose. He talks about all types of heretical things. Although they may seem mentally stimulating, surely they're not good for the Jewish mind, nonetheless, for Judaism. But he's protecting Judaism with Dennis Prager. Thank you. And what about Kenneth Mesho? Oh, Kenneth Mesho is a really, really interesting. He's the president of the African Christian Democratic Party of South Africa. Okay? So he was awarded honorary doctorate by the Bethel Christian College of Riverside, California, and was appointed to serve as the associate member on the board of regents in Bethel College. Kenneth is, obviously, for sure, he was born to protect Judaism with Dennis Prager. If that's not protection, what is? And the best yet, the list will go on till forever. But, Stephen Cornels. Stephen Cornels may be a very nice person for his people, surely. He has a nice smile, seems like an educated fellow, but he's also apparently protecting Judaism with Dennis Prager because he has experience by serving as a pastor. And serving as a pastor for Mount Olivet Lutheran Church in Minnesota. So, obviously everybody knows that Jews and Judaism is protected inside the church. Where else would a Jew and Judaism be protected better than a church in Minnesota? Look what we have. We have Mattis Friedman came from there. Isn't that enough to show you that Judaism is protected in Minnesota? Come on. So he serves as the chairman of the board of directors of the Wartburg Theological Seminary in Iowa. So he's protecting Judaism with Dennis Prager. You see, Rabotai Karim, when your morals do not follow halacha, they cannot be morally correct. Why? Because the only one that has morals that are unchangeable, morals that are unbreakable, morals that are 100% correct without question is HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. No questions asked. When you have morals of a human being, morals that are subject to change based on mood, subject to change based on audience, subject to change based on view counts, subject to change based on demand, subject to change based on whatever it is, when whoever has the biggest paycheck, then guess what? Those morals are no different than having likes on Facebook. And you see, Rabotai, Am Yisrael has been fighting for Judaism for 2,000 years, just since the destruction of the temple is just what we've been fighting directly with Christianity. But over 3,300 years since Judaism is in essence was born as a religion, but since creation, really, because that's been the purpose of the world. Now, many people are going to say, wait a minute, hold on a second. Isn't what you're saying against Prager and his university and all of his protectors of Judaism, Lashon Hara? Well, we heard from the Chazon Ish that if somebody is wicked, the laws of Lashon Hara don't apply. Now you can say, well, yeah, but that's probably just, the Chazon Ish, you're just wording it that way. He didn't really say that. Well, okay, you know what? Let's just go to the master of teachings of Lashon Hara. We'll go to the Chafetz Chaim himself. Chafetz Chaim in the Sefer Chafetz Chaim in Ilchot Isurei Lashon Hara, Halacha 8. The chapter 8, Halacha number 5. The entire Isur of Lashon Hara applies specifically to a victim who the Torah considers to be your brother, your fellow Jew, someone who observes Torah and mitzvot, meaning Lashon Hara only applies to people that observe the Torah and mitzvot. That's the only one that's considered amitecha, which means your brother. If the person drives on Shabbat like Dennis, or is a Christian missionary, eats pork on a regular basis, and is dishonest in their business on a regular basis, lies about all types of things on a regular basis, Chilul HaShem and so on, that person is definitely not your brother, even if his mother and his grandmother, all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu, were all Jews. Doesn't make a difference. He's not considered part of Amitecha. And the laws of Lashon Hara, the Chafetz Chaim says, are only pertaining to someone that's considered to be your brother, your fellow Jew. And if you don't understand what your brother, your fellow Jew means, he elaborates, someone who observes Torah and mitzvot. Now, if you're still hard-minded, you want further elaboration, Chafetz Chaim knew that, so he elaborated further. But to those persons who are known as heretics, apostates, i.e., Prager, Manis, Dror, Ephraim, all of the other heretics that we mentioned before, Ben, all these people, we only mention them because they crossed the line and became heretics because of certain things they did. Putting the Torah in danger, putting the Jewish people in danger with their actions, distorted the Torah, mistranslating the rules on purpose and so on, such as what I mentioned to you with Dennis Prager, with the kosher, or with violating Shabbat and so on. So what about those people? Those people that are considered as apostates, as heretics. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah, Rabotai. It's a mitzvah to degrade and humiliate them. Either directly to them in their presence or not in their presence. For whatever sins they were seen committing or sins that were heard they committed. I mean, you don't even have to be there or see the sins they made. You heard that he cheated on his wife. You heard that he stole. You heard that he did something. If he's already known as a heretic, you're allowed to make fun of him. In fact, it's a mitzvah, just like putting on tefillin. Mitzvah, like keeping Shabbat. Mitzvah, like keeping kosher. Mitzvah to make fun of those people. Mitzvah to expose them. Mitzvah to humiliate them. Directly, indirectly. The Torah instructs us. Vayikra 25:17, Leviticus 25:17, do not oppress your fellow Jew. But yet in Vayikra, in Leviticus 19:16, says, do not peddle gossip in society. And these people are not included in this warning because they have repudiated Hashem and didn't behave as Jews should. This concept is expressed by David Amalek in Tehillim 139:21, where he says, David Amalek who says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I don't have a Yetzirah. I don't have a Yetzirah. David Amalek says, I don't have a Yetzirah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What did he say in Tehillim 139:21 that the Chafetz Chaim brings? David Amalek says, those who hate you, Hashem, I hate them. And those who rise up against you, I will fight. Rabotai, David HaMelech was Kodesh Kodashim. He says that Alo misanecha Adonai esne ubitkomemecha et kotat. Who does he hate? Does he hate the people that tried to kill him? Does he hate the people that tried to kill his family? Who is he? What is David? David HaMelech had a lot of haters, had a lot of people go against him. What does he hate? David HaMelech says he hates the people that hate Hashem. And he quarrels with those who rise up against Hashem. But not just any quarrel, Rabotai. He continues in verse 22. With the utmost hatred I hate them. Tachlit sin'as netim lo'ivim ayuli. With the utmost hatred I hate them. They have become enemies unto me. David HaMelech, which the Chafetz Chaim brings, David HaMelech hates those that hate Hashem. Who are those people? Who are those people that hate Hashem? Somebody has to go in the streets, say, I hate Hashem? Dennis Prager says he loves Hashem. Dennis Prager and the rest of the people who mentioned, they say they love Hashem. Some of them do, at least. So, what's the connection? Chafetz Chaim gives us the connection. The definition of an apostate, a kofar, is someone who repudiates the Torah and denies that prophecy was given to Israel's prophets, whether he denies the Rin Torah or the Torah that was handed down through the generations by oral tradition. The Shas, the Talmud, this is the Torah Shebe'al Peh, the oral Torah. This person that denies any one of these parts of the Torah, like Dennis does on a regular basis, says he doesn't think this, he doesn't think even that the Rin Torah was given to Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, I have no position on this. Definitely disagrees with the sages of the Gemara. He says, I like them, but they're just people. Even though the Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, anyone that thinks they're just people is for sure a donkey. Nonetheless, so he's denying their significance. He's denying that we're supposed to follow what they say. He said you can follow his way. Why? He says that Rashi is not relevant, chas v'shalom. Rashi is not relevant. Dennis Prager is relevant. He actually says it with his own words, with his own mouth, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed him to continue living. That's how much mercy Hashem has in this world. Which part of the reason for that is because the Gemara Masechet Yomah, page 86, says, when a Rasha, really big Rasha, like a Dennis or a Manis or somebody like that, does teshuvah, it brings a lot of mercy to the world. Maybe it's possible that he actually do teshuvah. Anyway, Rabotai Yekarim, Chafetz Chaim says, someone that desecrates the Torah like this, someone that's a kofar, by denying either the written Torah or the oral tradition, this person is a kofar, even if he says that the entire Torah is God-given, except for one sentence, or except for a single logical deduction made by our sages, or a single chidush, a single insight learned from the juxtaposition of two sentences in the Torah, and one single grammatical issue. In denying even these seemingly inconsequential details, the Chafetz Chaim says, this person has repudiated the entire Torah, denying the authority of our sages of Chazal, has rejected Hashem, and he is a kofar, meaning he is considered as if He is an enemy of God. He hates God no matter how many times he draws a heart sign in God's name on it. Denying the Torah, denying our sages, denying oral tradition or the written is 100% a declaration of war against God. This, Rabotai Karim, is one of the things that not only gives us a permission to expose these wicked people, but rather makes it a mitzvah that's so significant that when a person humiliates these people, he brings mercy to the world. But again, only humiliating in the name of the Torah, not humiliating for personal reasons. And that's what the Chafetz Chaim says. There's a mitzvah to degrade and humiliate these people. Why? Because they're enemies of God. They're enemies of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now the Gemara, in Masechet Yomah, which obviously preceded the Chafetz Chaim or the Rambam or anyone pretty much that's in the last 1500 years, says further, מפרסמים את החנפנים מפני חילול השם, שנאמר, ובשוב צדיק מצדקו, ועשה עוול, ונתתי מכשול לפניו. The Gemara in Masechet Yomah, page 86b says, we exposed the hypocrites. We exposed the hypocrites, for otherwise there's going to be a desecration of Hashem's name. Where do we learn it from? We learn it from a verse in the prophet Yecheskel, chapter 3, verse 20, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, when a righteous person turns from his righteousness and acts corruptly, I place a stumbling block before him. Sages say we learn from here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking about a hypocrite, not a righteous person. Why? A righteous person doesn't act corruptly. A righteous person acts righteously. So what is he saying here? When the righteous person acts corruptly, meaning people thought he was righteous. People thought he was righteous. He's got a long beard. He's got white hair. He says he loves Judaism. He says he's protecting Judaism. He's fighting for Judaism. He looks and acts as if he's righteous. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says when the righteous person turns from his righteousness, he puts the righteousness on the side. He puts the show on the side. And then he acts corruptly. The real version of him comes out. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to give you a warning, you hypocrites. Dennis, Manis, Dror, Ephraim, all of these people that we know of and that we don't know of, but surely HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows you. And he already wrote about you in the prophet Yecheskel, giving you a warning, you hypocrites. Giving you a warning that he will give you opportunities to sin. He will give you opportunities to sin in a big way. Why? Because that's going to be your end. Because eventually, all of that desecration of Hashem's name that you've been doing in private will be exposed in public. All of it will come out. All of it will come out. And it's our mitzvah, Rabotai Karim, to expose this, to bring it out. Why? Because if you see one of these clowns suffer suddenly a heart attack, or some type of disease, or some type of loss, or some type of damage, and you think they're righteous, you think they're protectors of the Torah, you think they're protectors of Judaism, you think they're protectors of the Jewish people, and you see that they're suffering all of a sudden, you see that they're losing all of a sudden, you say, wow, that's what Hashem does to his lovers. That would be a desecration of Hashem's name. Hence the obligation to expose these people, and the reason why the Gemara says exposing such people brings mercy to the world, just like Pinchas brought mercy to the world by killing Zimri and Cosby. Brings mercy to the world. Why? Because now that you know that they're not righteous, that they're really wicked, when you see that eventually their demise, their suffering, when you see it, it's not going to be a desecration of Hashem's name. Why? Everyone says, they had it coming. They had it coming. Look, this guy is talking, is promoting all types of heresy. He's doing all types of heretical things. He's bringing missionaries to the synagogue. Missionaries are part of his organization. People that are literally murdering the neshamot of Jewish people, he's helping them. He's promoting them. Or he's promoting different types of pedophiles. Or he's working together with people that are against the Torah, and so on and so forth. He had it coming. He was going against Hashem for so long. How much patience do you think Hashem has? Eventually, he has to pay you the bill. Eventually, he has to pay you the bill. Rabotai, it's important for us to know that these things have to be exposed. These things have to be exposed. This is why you'll notice that although HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara, the same Gemara, Masechet Yom, on page 86b, says, look, Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem loved him. But yet, Hashem, every time he mentions the end of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is mentioned a few times in the Torah, he constantly mentions that he didn't sanctify his name at the time where he hit the Selah. He hit the rock instead of speaking to it, and that's why he didn't let him into Eretz Yisrael. Meaning he's exposing Moshe Rabbeinu's sin constantly. Sin at his level. Why? Why is he doing that? The Gemara says this is like an analogy of like two women that were flogged by the court, by the Bedin, and one of them was flogged because she committed adultery, while another one was flogged because she ate the fruits of the Shnat Shemitah. And the ones that ate the fruits, that was the rabbinical sin, still she's getting, that's the sin, is the punishment, is getting flogged. So she tell everybody that this is what I did. Tell everybody that I ate the fruits from the Shemitah. Tell everybody that I ate the fruit of the Shemitah. Meaning Moshe Rabbeinu told her, tell everybody, Hashem, please write constantly, that was my sin, that I hit the stone instead of speaking to it. Tell them a few times, emphasize it. Why? So they don't think that you didn't let me into Eretz Yisrael because I was a heretic, like those people that questioned you when the Meraglim came back. When the Meraglim came back with a bad report, and they acted in a heretical way by saying, oh no, maybe Hashem doesn't have power to overcome these giants. And that's why Hashem killed them all in the desert. So don't let anyone think that I was killed for the same reason, Hashem. Please mention it in the Torah several times that was my sin. And that's the reason why I didn't enter Eretz Yisrael. And it's not because I was part of that crime that they did. Same thing here, the woman that ate from the Shemitah says, listen, tell everybody that's what I did. Why? I don't want anyone to think that I was so bad like the woman that committed adultery. Here we learn, Rabotai Karim, that there is a certain desire from heaven for these types of things to be exposed. Why? So the ones that perform these really, really bad sins, like we've mentioned, actually is a sort of a limud zchut on the rest of us. Why? Let's say you made a crime, you didn't pray on time. Or your Shabbat, you forgot, you by accident turned on the light. By accident. Or you didn't think twice before you washed the vegetables and you forgot, you're not even sure if you ate a bug or you ate a vegetable. Okay? So now when you do teshuvah, we do teshuvah either during your everyday or on Yom Kippur. Amalek comes to Shammai and says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, listen, I understand that he made a mistake. He turned on the light on Shabbat and he didn't pray on time and he didn't do this and he didn't do that. But look, this guy Dennis, he tells everybody he violates Shabbat and he's proud of it. He tells everybody he doesn't agree with the sages, so much so he doesn't even think they're relevant to this generation. This guy Manis, he does lectures and events with pedophiles, people that are literally torturing your own children. He does lectures with them. He speaks against your Torah. He says that you don't punish this guy Manis. And the other guy Ephraim, he brings the Christian missionary, the idol worshippers that are stealing your children and bringing them to idolatry. He brings them to the Jewish people. That's what he does. So just know, okay, he forgot that it was Shabbat and he turned on the light by accident. And he ate one time and it was questionable. But these people do it on a regular basis, Hashem. Hashem says, oh, tzaddikim, these people. Tzaddikim, this guy that just turned on the light by accident on Shabbat, accident, not on purpose. Actually, he's like a tzaddik next to these people. It's a tzaddik. It's good for us to expose those people for many reasons. Maybe it'll even cause them to do teshuvah. But at the worst case scenario, at least it brings mercy to the world, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees, as the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 55, specifically says this brings mercy to the world. Why? At least somebody's fighting for Hashem, fighting for the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabotai Yekarim, when a person lies about Hashem, lies about the Torah, distorts the Torah, surely he's going to lie and distort everything else to his likings. Even if he says or she says that they are a moral person. There is no such thing as morality without Torah. No such thing. Whatever morality you think they have, it's simply temporary. It's an illusion. You can call it fake news. You can call it just simply, it's a coincidence, if you will, that our Torah rule over here agrees with their likings, but you'll see that they distort it in other places. Just like the abortion clinics are going to tell you, we're doing kindness to humanity. We're providing a health service. Just like you'll see the people that are killing people. Just like you'll see the people that are doing all types of things that look good, but other places they're terrible. A person like Bill Gates, for example. I know a lot of people like to talk about him because of the whole coronavirus. I care less about that part. But look, a person like Bill Gates, he has a huge foundation with billions of dollars. The William Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation. They also have, what a lot of people don't know, but I know from the investment world, they have an investment body called Cascade Investments, which has tens of billions of dollars in there that he invests in the stock market and different types of ventures and so on. So this may help some of the conspiracy theories that want to track his connection to coronavirus. But anyway, it's called Cascade Investments. And now he funds all types of big projects. And he is very involved in the medical world, very involved in pharmaceuticals and so on. So he thinks he's doing good. He thinks he's bringing good. Now, if his morals were really in line with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if it was really for the sake of Hashem, not a single penny would be going to abortions. But when you have $80 million, 80 million plus that we know of, going to abortions, shows us that it has nothing to do with God. Everything he does has nothing to do with God. Not our God, maybe a different God, some false God that he has. Because our God does not like abortions. Our God says abortions are 100% murder. Are you going to say, no, what are you talking about? Sometimes abortions are needed because the woman is sick and is a problem. Okay, let's just deal with that once and for all. The abortionist by name of Don Sloan, who literally performed thousands of abortions, admitted, quote, if a woman with a serious illness, heart disease, say, or diabetes, gets pregnant, the abortion procedure may be as dangerous for her as going through the pregnancy. With diseases like lupus, multiple sclerosis, even breast cancer, the chance that pregnancy will make the disease worse is no greater than that chance that the disease will either stay the same or improve. And medical technology has advanced to the point where even women with diabetes and kidney disease can be seen through a pregnancy safely by a doctor who knows what he's doing. We've come a long way since my mother's time. The idea of abortion to save a mother's life is something that people cling to because it sounds noble and pure. But medically speaking, it probably doesn't exist. It's a real stretch of our thinking. Anyone that thinks that abortion still exists for the sake of saving human life, because that makes him sound good because sometimes people are sick, an abortionist that literally performed thousands of abortions himself says, in today's world, it's almost non-existent. It's almost non-existent, meaning you have 42 0.7 million babies were murdered in cold blood, it wasn't for saving anyone's life. It was simply the Holocaust times 7. But with a smile and a few dollars that exchanged. Maybe even insurance covered it too. You see, Rabotai Karim, without the Torah, there is no morally correct. If you lie about God, you'll lie about everything else. We see this time and time again. We see it in politics, we see it in the investment world, we see it in the business world, and unfortunately we see it also in the Torah world. In order for a person to know which way is right versus which way is wrong, there's only one place to look, and that's in the Torah. And since none of us are sages, and we can't understand the Torah as it was written and given to Moshe Rabbeinu, therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a back door, a way for us to understand, a way for us to have the clarity without a shadow of a doubt. He gave us the sages, he gave us Chazal. But since Chazal can't live forever, he continued bringing more and more sages in every single generation that will give us more elaboration of what did God say and what did he want from us, and shed more light on the truth. When you want the truth, all you got to do is look into the Torah and its sages. Baruch Hashem, there are honest teachers in every language. You have to be able to find them. How do you find them? You pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help you. You literally pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help you find them. Why? Because there are many people. And you don't know if it's a heretic or if it's a righteous person. Because when you don't know enough Torah, you don't know what you don't know. So you have to pray to Hashem, please HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please give me a righteous teacher. Please give me a teacher that's going to tell me what you said and what you want versus what a person wants and what a person thinks. Give me the truth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that's all I want. Why should Hashem give it to you? Because you're already committing that if he gives you the truth, you'll do everything he says. BeEzrat Hashem, this too will help us do more and more of what Hashem says without putting our 2 cents into it, without thinking that our morals are better than Hashem's morals, chas v'shalom, without thinking for a moment that we know more than the sages, without questioning anything because of our own desires and our own weaknesses. Questioning for the sake of developing the Torah further, questioning for the sake of new insights that are in accordance with the rulings of the Torah, questioning for the sake of sanctifying Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, but always fighting for our Kadosh Baruch Hu, for the sake of his name, and really for our own sake, for the mercy to be given to our world, because there's so much bad in the world, Rabotai. If we do not plead with Hashem through our actions to bring more mercy into the world, it's literally going to be destroyed in such a fashion we're going to regret the day we were born. Please, Rabotai, continue publicizing these shurim, continue supporting them, continue doing whatever you can to bring this rebuke, these messages out to the public. I know I get a lot of headaches because of it, and I hate it. But nonetheless, the more this is shared, the more this is spread, the more mercy will be given to the world. And it's worth it to bring more mercy to the world because we need it. We need more mercy in this world. We have a very horrific situation in the world. Each day, we miss the problems of yesterday, Hashem Yishmo. Each day, there's new reports of new problems that are worse than the day before. Name it, it's there. We need more mercy. We need a Kadosh Baruch Hu to have more mercy on us. But he's not going to give us more mercy just because. We have to fight for his name. We have to fight for his name, but for his name and not for our name. For his holiness and not our imaginary holiness. In accordance with his Torah and not just our logic. You follow the rules, you do what he says. BeEzrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu bring you blessing, protection, bracha, atzlacha, chaim arukim, shlemim, meleim Torah, mitzvot, ve'gmilut chasadim. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach. Introducing the new BeEzrat HaShem lecture center. We Hashem are here in Cooper City, Florida, on Sterling Avenue. We have in the same shopping center. We have a major kosher supermarket. Lots of Jews out here. Initially, we're going to start off this place next month with the place where we're going to do our weekly shulim 3 times a week. And Hashem, as the crowd grows, maybe we'll add some more shulim in Hebrew as well. Initially, it's going to be for men and women in English, and then later on, Hashem will do some other things. Later on, we're going to need to transform this place also into a synagogue. But as you can see, the walls are empty. We need an enormous amount of books. We need a Sefer Torah. We need an Aron Kodesh. We need a mechitza. We need a bima. We need all the holy things that you need for a synagogue. Now, throughout the years, we've been very generous to other people who've donated to Torah, who've donated money to different synagogues, and I'm sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to send us the right people to donate all of these things to our organization, because all we want to do is spread Torah to the world. So anyone that is serious and looking to make a major contribution to our organization, whether it be the Sefer Torah or the Aron HaKodesh or the Mechitza, please contact us or simply go to our website, BeEzratHashem.org, and may Hashem continue to bless you.